Chapter 168. Li Xiqing walked over and glanced at Su Qianxi with his cold eyes. Soon, his gaze fell on Bo Xiao. "Thank you, sir." Li Xiqing reached out a hand to him. "If it were not for you, my wife would have fallen." Su Qianxi felt flattered. He was actually thanking her. However, Bo Xiao had already heard the key point in his words. Wife. This man was warning him. Bo Xiao curled his thin red lips and gently shook Li Xiqing's hand. "You're welcome, Mr. Li. You know me. Mr. Li is very famous. If I did not know you, I would be too ignorant." Bo Xiao. Li Xiqing. "Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you." In just a few words, Su Qianxi inexplicably felt a strong sense of tension. Looking at Li Xiqing and then at Bo Xiao, Su Qianxi's stomach growled. The eyes of the two men almost fell on her at the same time. Su Qianxi smiled awkwardly and blushed. "I'm hungry." Li Xiqing curled his lips, put an arm around her shoulders, and said, "Let's eat." Su Qianxi's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she stared at him with her eyes wide open. Inexplicably, she felt a bit uncomfortable. He was really good at holding a woman. She wondered what he looked like when he held Tang Menjing. Feeling a bit sad, Su Qianxi quickly looked hurt. Bo Xiao clearly caught all her emotions and turned his gaze to the man who was obviously cold and indifferent. Li Xiqing did not see the change in Su Qianxi's expression. Meeting Bo Xiao's eyes, he nodded and said, "Goodbye." Then he put his arm around Su Qianxi and walked in the direction of Grandpa. Bo Xiao looked at their backs, his dark brown eyes full of interest. Li Xiqing's wife turned out to be such a delicate and beautiful little thing. However, it seemed that this couple did not look like a couple. It seemed that Deng and Su Qianxi actually did not feel much harmony with each other. Instead, they looked like two people who were forcibly tied together. "Interesting. Young master, madam wants you to go over." "Yes, coming." Before she reached Grandpa's seat, she couldn't help it anymore. Lifting his arm, she ducked under his arm and ran away. Li Xiqing clearly felt her repulsion. Clenching his fists, his eyes darkened, he followed her. Sitting in the seat in front of Grandpa, Su Qianxi's eyes lit up when she saw the variety of dishes. She was starving. "You must be hungry. I ordered all your favorites. Eat more." "Thank you, Grandpa." Su Qianxi smiled happily and stabbed a piece of cake with her fork. But just as he was about to put it into his mouth, a large hand snatched it away. "Have some milk first." He put a glass of warm milk in front of her. Su Qianxi's little face suddenly became gloomy, and she hated him even more. Glaring at him, she gulped down the milk, grabbed the fork in his hand, and took a bite. "Eat slowly," Li Xiqing said again. "No one is fighting with you." "Damn it, the ghost won't go away." Su Qianxi slowed down and poked the cake in front of her, looking unhappy. If Tang Menjing was eating with him, he would definitely not care so much. However, she was really hungry, not eating. Chapter 169. Half of it was true, and the other half was not. In the past, when she saw him, she would feel that he was a feast for the eyes. Now, it was still the same face, the same figure, and the same cold expression. However, thinking of that day when she saw him kissing Tang Menjing, as well as that phone call, she felt disgusted. What was worse was that he was talking about this and that while she was eating, which made her feel even more annoyed. He did not seem to be disliked at all. Frowning, he put a piece of barbecue on her plate. "Stop it." His voice was cold, but the two words that came out of his mouth sounded like he was coaxing a child. Su Qianxi felt that there was something in her stomach, and she could not let it go. Glancing at the old man who was laughing happily, she turned her grief into appetite. Eat. After eating and drinking, Grandpa stretched, indicating that he was going to rest. Su Qianxi had just woken up and was very energetic. After Old Master Li went upstairs to rest, he stood up and left. The location of the hotel that Captain Li had booked was very good. Not far from the entrance was the beach. On both sides of the long wooden bridge, warm yellow lights were shining. Couples were coming and going, holding each other's hands and saying the most romantic words in various languages. Su Qianxi felt envious. It was indeed a honeymoon place. Taking off her shoes, she stepped into the sea barefoot. The cold water kept surging up, reaching her ankles. The sea breeze was salty, and many men and women were running back and forth on the beach. The cheerful and childlike laughter of children kept coming. Su Qianxi felt that her soul had been cleansed. At this moment, her mind was empty, without any distractions. It had been a long time since she had been so relaxed. Chapter 170. Happy. Hearing the cold voice, Su Qianxi stiffened and turned her head. Li Xiqing was wearing casual, loose clothes, looking a bit casual. But between his brows, there was still an indescribable coldness. With both hands in his pockets, he turned his head and looked over. Under the blazing warm yellow light, his deep, pitch-black eyes seemed to shine with an indescribable starlight. One look, and she was attracted. Su Qianxi was a bit dazed. His eyes were like extremely attractive magnets, constantly luring her to get closer. Every time, she had no way to escape. When their eyes met, Su Qianxi clearly sensed that his eyes were getting darker and darker. Quickly looking away, she suppressed her racing heartbeat and was about to put on her shoes. But the moment she turned around, a rough and large hand grabbed her arm. "Mr. Li, can I help you?" Su Qianxi could hear the nervousness in her voice. Hearing Mr. Li, Li Xiqing frowned and tightened his grip on her arm. He said in a low voice, "Want to talk?" Although it was a question, he did not mean to ask for an answer. Su Qianxi was pulled to sit down by him. The sea breeze gently swept over, lifting her long hair and hitting his face. The tip of his nose was filled with the light scent of shampoo. Brushing aside the strand of black hair, he casually played with it. It was as smooth as silk. Well, it felt good. "Why are you afraid of me?" Li Xiqing asked. Su Qianxi did not expect that his first question would be this. Afraid of him? Afraid? Of course. When she first married him, she was not afraid. Everyone said that Li Xiqing was cold-blooded and ruthless, but she did not take it seriously. Again and again, she provoked him and stepped into his forbidden zone. Although it was partly because of Tang Menjing, Su Qianxi knew that it was because of her innocent and naive personality. Later, he became more and more disgusted with her. Every time he saw her, he would treat her coldly. Even in front of so many people, he did not give her any face. Later, when she saved him from the fire and disfigured his face, he mistook her for the culprit behind the kidnapping and arson. He did not give her any leeway. Other than sparing her life and her status, he had taken everything away from her. At that moment, she was truly afraid. This fear lasted for 3 years. For the past 3 years, with her scarred face, every time she saw him, she would consciously hide far away. Inferiority and longing. At that time, she was so envious of Tang Menjing. He envied her for being able to stand with him so openly. He envied her for being the best candidate for Mrs. Li in everyone's eyes. He, on the other hand, was destined to be a lonely shadow in the dark world, unseen and unconcerned. Now that she was reborn, she had developed a habit of being afraid to face him, afraid to approach him. He was the deepest desire in her heart. She wanted him, but she didn't dare to. She could not afford it, she nodded and then shook her head. Her expression was a bit complicated, looking up at his impeccably handsome face. She could talk to him so calmly face to face, everything was like a dream. Seeing her nod and then shake her head, he asked again, "Am I scary?" She nodded again and again. Li Xiqing looked out to the sea, and his cold voice was almost blown away by the sea breeze. He said, "It's very unfair for you to do this." Chapter 171. Su Qianxi looked at his cold profile, obviously not understanding what he meant. He looked at her. Under the lights on both sides of the river, Su Qianxi clearly saw the deep meaning in his eyes. "You were not like this when you were with Luihan." The sea breeze blew, and the man's hair swayed gently. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, but his eyes were very firm, looking at her. Su Qianxi was caught off guard by his words. Her heart skipped a beat. Out of reflex, she blurted out, "He is different. He is my good friend." "What about me?" He looked at her. "What am I?" "Yes, what was he?" Su Qianxi suddenly did not know how to define the man in front of her. Husband. But she clearly knew that it was impossible for them to be together, didn't she? She liked him, and she loved him. However, there was still Tang Menjing between them, wasn't there? Husband. She was afraid that if she said this word, she would humiliate herself. Looking down, Su Qianxi was silent. Li Xiqing's eyes were cold. Seeing her obvious hesitation and thought, he couldn't help but feel depressed. He just wanted an identity in her heart. Was it really that hard? Su Qianxi's phone vibrated in her pocket, and a beautiful piano music rang. It was Elegy. Li Xiqing looked down and immediately saw two words, Ihan. No last name, just a simple name, Ihan. And his, if he remembered correctly, she didn't even have a name in the note she gave him. Instead, she gave him a word that could not be more unfamiliar, Mr. Li. Such a gap, such a treatment, Li Xiqing's heart sank. Su Qianxi did not notice his slight change and directly picked up the phone. "Hello, hey, I have good news for you. Our Qianlu has been chosen by a big company. Have you heard of Wanwei Technology? They are going to invest in us." Hearing that, Su Qianxi was dazed, and then she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. "Really, then?" "Ah." Before Su Qianxi finished her words, she was pushed by a strong force and exclaimed. When she came back to herself, she had been pressed on the beach. Looking at him who suddenly pushed her down, she was inexplicably panicked. Her hands were tied behind her back, and one of her hands was still holding on to her phone. "What's wrong, Qian? Where is he?" "Hello, hello." Luihan's voice came from the microphone. She wanted to answer, but seeing his obviously unhappy face, her heart skipped a beat. She stammered, "Mr. Li, what's wrong?" Li Xiqing's eyes were always cold, but at this moment, there was unspeakable anger, as if it wanted to jump out, burn her, and swallow her. Surprise. What was this man trying to do? Her hand hurt a little. She tried to move, but he pressed her even harder. "I am your husband. At least for now." The phone was snatched away, and after hanging up, it was thrown to the side. She frowned and exclaimed, "What are you doing?" The cold touch on her lips was smooth. Her eyes widened, looking at the man in front of her incredulously. Panic, helplessness, what was he doing? In less than a second, she realized what was going on and struggled. Chapter 172. Her legs were clamped by his firm and strong legs. Although they were separated by clothes, Su Qianxi could still clearly feel the strong lines of his body. His hot breath was on her face. Her lips were firmly kissed, and her hands were clipped above her head. She could not break free or escape. Li Xiqing's movements were a bit jerky as he pried her lips open, looking for her soft tongue. His movements were rough and a bit punishing. His kiss was extremely aggressive. Su Qianxi's hands and feet gradually became weak, and her breathing became shorter and shorter. Everything in front of her was white, and she could not tell north from south anymore. It seemed that her whole world was only her, only him. It felt like a century had passed. Su Qianxi felt a bit dizzy. When she was released, fresh air poured in, making her suddenly sober. Gasp! Su Qianxi gasped, having never tried to suffocate like this. Her heart was beating so fast that she almost thought she was flying. It was so crazy that it was scary. Li Xiqing's breathing was a bit rapid. His hands grasped her hands tightly, and he bent down to look at her. Her delicate facial features and porcelain skin seemed to be covered with a light layer of pink. Her black eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, dazed and charming. Li Xiqing clamped her down, his eyes gleaming. His voice was low and hoarse as he said, "If another man were to treat you like this, would you obediently let him kiss you?" Li Xiqing's eyes were cold, and his voice was low and hoarse. Su Qianxi suddenly felt humiliated and stopped breathing. She tried to lift her hands but was firmly held down by him, unable to move. Staring at his lustful eyes, Su Qianxi sneered, "What about you? You can be in heat for any woman who kisses you." Li Xiqing's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face approached her. He said hoarsely, "Unfortunately, I have only been in heat for you." "What about Tang Menjing?" Su Qianxi almost blurted out, but after saying it, she wanted to bite her tongue off. Why did it sound so much like jealousy? God, she did not mean that. She really did not, although she did find Tang Menjing disgusting, and annoying, she was definitely not jealous. No. Seeing her obviously dodging regretful eyes, Li Xiqing curled his lips slightly, so light that she almost thought it was an illusion. "If I had any feelings for her, you wouldn't be able to marry into the Li family." "Grandpa, who can force me to do something I don't want to do?" Su Qianxi's voice stopped, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Is he trying to explain to me? However, she clearly heard. Biting her lower lip, she gazed at him and said, "I clearly saw you and Tang Menjing kissing in the swimming pool at home." Swimming pool? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. "You saw it?" "Yes, so you don't have to lie to me. Why would I lie to you?" Li Xiqing interrupted her, looking dangerous. "That time, she did, but I pushed her away. I don't like her, in the past, now, and in the future." The powerful words made Su Qianxi speechless. Her first reaction was, "He's lying to me." However, why would Li Xiqing lie to her? He was such a proud person that he would not lie to her, right? Chapter 173. Bang, bang, bang. The hurried knocking on the door made him pause. Bang, bang, bang. The knocking continued. Almost out of reflex, Su Qianxi pushed him away and covered herself with the quilt. Being suddenly pushed away, Li Xiqing felt even more uncomfortable. He growled coldly, "Who is it?" Bang, bang, bang. Su Qianxi blushed. Seeing Li Xiqing's obviously gloomy face, she said carefully, "Go open the door." Could it be Grandpa or us? Li Xiqing's clothes were a bit messy, and his hair looked like a bird's nest. Hearing her words, he got out of bed, opened the door, and froze the air around him. The waitress probably didn't expect to see such a person when she opened the door. Startled, she froze for a moment before stammering, "Mr. Li. Are you the grandson of the guest in room 389? The guest suddenly fainted. You. Before the waitress finished, Li Xiqing had already opened the door and rushed to room 389. When he arrived at the hospital, it was already past 10 p.m. Su Qianxi never knew that Captain Li had high blood pressure. However, it was the first time in her 2 lives that he had fainted because of high blood pressure. Fortunately, she only stayed with him for about half an hour before he woke up. She let out a sigh of relief, poured him a glass of water, and fed it to him. Captain Li looked at his grandson, feeling a bit guilty. Li Xiqing also looked unfriendly. He said to Su Qianxi, "Go out for a second." Su Qianxi looked at Captain Li and then at Li Xiqing. These 2 people seemed a bit weird. However, seeing Captain Li's expression, Su Qianxi walked out and closed the door. After Su Qianxi left, Li Xiqing threw a stack of photos at Captain Li. In the photos, a man and a woman were kissing on the beach in a warm yellow light. Seeing the photos, Captain Li coughed in embarrassment. Blushing, he turned his head and closed his eyes to play dead. Seeing his expression, Li Xiqing felt a bit disdainful. "Is it necessary? You're so happy that you're having a heart attack." When the old man heard this, his eyes widened. He was a little unconvinced. "Why do you think it's because of this? Can't I, your grandfather, be sad about something else?" Li Xiqing was silent. Looking at his angry look, he nodded. "Then I will pretend that I did not see that you sent someone to follow us and take pictures. I did not know that you secretly took our passports and deliberately arranged only 1 room for us." Old Master Li was speechless. "I say, kid, if it weren't for your grandfather, would you be where you are today? Would Qian forgive you? What a joke. Your grandson is tall and strong, he doesn't need your help. Besides, what kind of help was this?" He was so excited in the middle of the night that he fainted from high blood pressure. This was clearly a trap for his grandson. The piece of meat in his mouth flew away. Li Xiqing felt that he was still in pain from holding it in. "Lie down. You'll be discharged tomorrow." Hearing this, the old man was unhappy and turned around angrily. "Go away, I want Qian to come in." Then he yelled, "Hey, Qian, there's no justice. The grandson is bullying the grandfather." Li Xiqing glanced at him with disdain and put the stack of photos back into the envelope. Hearing Grandpa's yell, Su Qianxi hurried in. Seeing the old man's look, she was dazed and looked at Li Xiqing. "What's wrong?" "I'm old." Li Xiqing walked out of the ward with a cold face. However, when he walked out of the door, he said, "I'll go get something to eat." After Li Xiqing walked out, Captain Li came over and asked mysteriously, "Did the boy just bully you?" "Bully?" Su Qianxi's face suddenly blushed. Seeing the ambiguous smile on Captain Li's face, it was clear that he already knew everything. "You made up." Captain Li was a bit proud and snorted. Husband and wife quarrel at the beginning and make up at the end. However, don't be too accommodating to the boy. I spoiled him too much. Now he is just a little gangster. The more you obey him, the more he bullies you. Su Qianxi chuckled and changed the topic. "Do you want some water?" When Li Xiqing came back, it was already half an hour later. Light Chinese food with porridge and side dishes was very suitable for a midnight snack. Old Master Li ate with relish and joked with Qian from time to time. However, Li Xiqing was even more unhappy. Captain Li was experienced and immediately saw through the expression on Li Xiqing's face, insatiable. Chapter 174. He rushed into the bathroom and took a cold shower. When he came out, he found that Su Qianxi was already gone. The computer was on the bedside table, and a chat box was open. It was Louis Han transferring a file to her. Judging from the name, it seemed to be an electronic contract. However, where was she? He found his cell phone and called Su Qianxi's cell phone, but it rang under the covers. Opening it, he took out his phone and hung up. Holding two phones in his hands, he felt a bit uneasy. Walking out of the room, he looked around and finally knocked on Grandpa's door. It was Su Qianxi who opened the door. Seeing her, Li Xiqing was relieved and looked even colder. "What are you doing here?" Grandpa said he wanted to sunbathe. "Shall we go sit on the beach after dinner?" Letting go of the doorknob, Li Xiqing walked in and helped Captain Li up with a smile. Old Master Li saw the unsatisfied look on his grandson's face and felt very sympathetic. He clicked his tongue and said, "You didn't sleep well, kid? If you don't want to go, I can go with Chan. Let's go." The three of them casually ate something in the dining hall before accompanying the old man to the beach. They found a rattan chair and sat down. Then, they chatted on and off. "Mr. Li." A voice sounded a bit surprised. Seeing Li Xiqing, Xing Shiming knew that Su Qianxi must be here. Walking over, he saw the person he wanted to see. "Uncle Xing," Su Qianxi said, also surprised. Seeing it was Xing Shiming, Li Xiqing narrowed his cold eyes. In an instant, there was a sense of danger in his eyes. He would never forget the way Xing Shiming looked at his wife. At his age, he was totally old enough to be Su Qianxi's father. How could he want to be an old cow? Besides, it was Li Xiqing's grass. Ha! Looking at Li Xiqing's cold eyes, Xing Shiming turned around and said, "Yifan, come here. I see someone I know." "Yifan? Song Yifan? Mr. Song is here too?" Su Qianxi asked. Xing Shiming nodded with a smile and walked up to Li Xiqing. "Long time no see, Mr. Li. I didn't expect to see you here." "Oh, when I received your call a few days ago, I did not expect it either." Li Xiqing said coldly and shook his hand, his face expressionless. However, the smile on Xing Shiming's face was a bit awkward. The atmosphere was so awkward that it could not be dissolved. Song Yifan walked over and patted Xing Shiming on the shoulder. "What's wrong?" However, when he went further, he saw Li Xiqing, Su Qianxi, and the old man lying on the cane chair. Seeing the old man, Song Yifan greeted respectfully, "Captain Li." "Oh, it's you." Obviously, Captain Li knew Song Yifan. What a coincidence. Song Yifan smiled. "Yes." Unfortunately, Xing Shiming had deliberately asked about Su Qianxi's whereabouts and then followed her. Of course, he also knew that Chief Li was there. "You know each other?" She looked at Captain Li and then at Song Yifan. "Yes, the son of an old comrade, and an international pianist. We meet again." Song Yifan looked at Su Qianxi with a smile. Seeing Song Yifan for the second time, Su Qianxi was not as excited as the first time. However, seeing him smile at her, she was still flattered. She nodded and said, "Yes, what a coincidence." Chapter 175. Song Yifan was not surprised that Li Xiqing could know his whereabouts. With Li Xiqing's current ability, it was easy for him to track him down. Without hiding it, Song Yifan said, "I'm not in a good mood recently, so I came out for a vacation." "Is that so?" Li Xiqing looked at him with a faint smile. Song Yifan could clearly see the teasing look on his face. The atmosphere became awkward again. Xing Shiming quickly tried to smooth things over. "We are going to go to the other island. Do you want to join us?" "The other island?" "Yes, there are only 4 of us. If we can find more people, it should be very lively," Song Yifan said. "Yes, we are going fishing and barbecuing. We have prepared a lot of things. Do you want to join us?" Xing Shiming said and looked at Captain Li. "Captain Li, what do you think?" Old Master Li raised his eyelids. Basking in the sun lazily, he waved his hand. This old man won't join in the fun. You young people should go have fun. Su Qianxi had a good impression of Xing Shiming. After all, in her previous lifetime, he had helped her a lot. Even though the trajectory of development in this life was completely different. If she had not gone to him on purpose, their first meeting would have been more than a year later. However, Uncle Sheng was still very nice to her. Xing Shiming's warm invitation and his expectant eyes made Su Qianxi swallow the words of refusal she was about to say. She looked at Li Xiqing and asked, "Can I?" Li Xiqing squinted at her and then looked at Song Yifan. Song Yifan gave him a friendly smile. "Let's go together. If you want to go, let's go." Although it was short, Su Qianxi already had a smile on her face. Xing Shiming was overjoyed. He quickly called the others and took them to the boat. The small boat was not slow. However, when they arrived at the island, it was already more than 20 minutes later. There were no houses on the small island. There was a barbecue grill around, which was relatively clean. In addition to Xing Shiming and Song Yifan, there were 2 younger people in the group. They quickly took the things that they had prepared from the boat and set them up. Barbecue. Su Qianxi excitedly went up to help, and the lively young girl quickly talked to Su Qianxi. "Hey, what's your name?" "I'm Ah Duo, Lawyer Xing's assistant." "This is Ah Li, my boyfriend." "I am Su Qianxi." "Yes, I know. Do you have a good relationship with Lawyer Xing?" "I've never seen him care so much about a girl. He's been helping you investigate your background and find your mother." Su Qianxi paused and looked at her. "You said that Uncle Sheng has been helping me find my mother." Ah Duo didn't feel anything was wrong. She stuck the skewer into the food and said, "Yes, but it's too hard to find." "I can only find your mother, Ah Duo." Xing Shiming's voice sounded, "Can you get me a few bottles of drinks?" "Hey, he's here." Ah Duo quickly went to the boat and walked down with a dozen beers in her left hand and a dozen juices in her right. However, when she was not far from Xing Shiming walked up to her and whispered, "Don't tell her that I'm investigating her background. It's a secret. And don't tell her what we're here for." Chapter 176. Every word of Ah Duo's mantra was internet slang. However, at this moment, even if Xing Shiming did not know about the internet, he knew what she meant. "You said it." Ah Duo's eyes became evasive. She stuffed the beer and juice into his hand and ran away. Xing Shiming felt angry and amused at the same time, but he could not help but feel nervous. Looking at Su Qianxi, he noticed that she was also looking at him. There was curiosity in her eyes. She looked so much like her. However, the Su Qianxi in his memory was obviously more energetic and intelligent than her. However, he could not go back. He smiled at her and pretended to be calm as he walked over. He put down the drink in his hand and grabbed a big pile of charcoal to throw into the barbecue grill. "Uncle Sheng." "Yes." Xing Shiming looked up at her. "My mother's name is Su Han." She couldn't bear it anymore. It was as if what she said was a very cruel thing. However, she knew how disappointed Xing Shiming would be after he failed to find out who she was. Instead of letting him fail, it was better for him to give up now. In her previous lifetime, she almost thought that she was his daughter. However, everything proved that she was still the illegitimate daughter of the Su family, the daughter of Su Han who had been missing for a long time. Xing Shiming was not a fool. He knew what she meant the moment he heard this. However, he still lowered his head and pretended not to hear it. He said, "You seem to have a good relationship with him. Why do you want a divorce?" Without any warning, Su Qianxi pursed her lips. Not wanting to embarrass him, she did not want to tell him the secret in her heart, so she simply bowed her head and continued to put food into the bamboo skewers. I think he is quite nice to you. If you do not hate him, it is not a bad idea to continue. Xing Shiming started the fire and said to himself, such an excellent man is rarely so clean. Clean. Su Qianxi was a bit confused. He said Li Xiqing was clean. How was he clean? Before Su Qianxi could answer, she felt a force on her shoulder, and a warm touch hit her. Turning her head, she saw a handsome face leaning against her shoulder. He put his arm around her waist and said in a cold voice, "What are you talking about?" Su Qianxi blushed and shrugged. "Don't do that. It's heavy." Heavy. Li Xiqing put his chin directly on her shoulder and slightly tilted his head, feeling his warm breath on her face. Su Qianxi only felt that her face was burning, and every part of her body was itchy and numb, which was very uncomfortable. "Then why didn't you say I was heavy when I pressed you down just now?" Li Xiqing tilted his head and whispered, his voice low and magnetic. Accompanied by his hot breath, Su Qianxi only felt her head buzzing and her body trembling, almost going soft. Was that something Li Xiqing would say? Too much of a hooligan. This was completely different from the serious and indifferent Li Xiqing in her memory. Could it be that this was his true face? When he pressed down on her just now, driving without saying a word is too dirty. However, when she turned her head and saw Li Xiqing's serious face, she immediately swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. Chapter 177. Guilty conscience, guilty conscience, guilty conscience. She subconsciously tightened her arms and legs, looking up at Xing Shiming. Xing Shiming didn't hear what they were talking about, but seeing her blushing face, he knew that it might not be something suitable for him to hear. Seeing her nervous and embarrassed eyes, he immediately lowered his head and pretended not to see it. "Why is your face so red?" As if he did not know what he had said, he reached out and touched her face. "It's so hot. Are you not feeling well? Go away." She turned her head and glared at him, blushing even more. With a faint smile, Li Xiqing quickly let go of her, washed his hands, and helped her put on the food. She was a bit surprised. It turned out that Li Xiqing could do this kind of work. She stared at him for a while and found that he looked much better in the clothes than she did. Song Yifan also walked over and asked, "I heard that the Li Financial Group is preparing for a cocktail party and is looking for a suitable band. Have they found one?" "Cocktail party?" She looked up at Li Xiqing. "Your company is having a cocktail party again. How come she did not know about it?" The so-called cocktail party of the Li Financial Group must be of a large scale. The amount of manpower and financial resources required was remarkable. Every time it was held, it was definitely because there was a new project being launched, or there was an important announcement being made. However, she did not remember such a thing in her previous lifetime. Was she wrong? Not the company. Li Xiqing did not look up. "It's for you." "For me?" She felt flattered. "Why?" "A press conference." He stopped and looked at her. "A woman of the Li family will meet people sooner or later." A woman of the Li family, his words were light as a feather, but they made her heart flutter. Su Qianxi looked at Li Xiqing's handsome face, cold and hard, but at this moment, she was inexplicably tempted. A woman of the Li family. Had she been acknowledged? Not just because her grandfather liked her, not just because she thought too highly of herself, but because she was truly recognized as a woman of the Li family. Moreover, he had specially organized a large-scale cocktail party for her. This kind of treatment, this kind of surprise, was something he had never experienced in his previous life. Her heart seemed to be tightly twisted at this moment, and her little face was also a little red from excitement. She asked, "Is this Grandpa's idea?" "Yes." Li Xiqing responded indifferently, but when he looked around, he clearly saw the disappointment in her eyes. He asked me to hold a meet and greet. Therefore, the cocktail party was actually his own idea. However, Su Qianxi did not understand. Slightly disappointed, she said, "Got it." Li Xiqing gave her a deep look and did not explain. He turned to Song Yifan and said, "Not yet. If your band is interested, we can talk." "Yes, when?" Number 15. Ah. Su Qianxi was a bit nervous. So sudden. Doesn't that mean it won't be long? Yes, the sooner the better. He couldn't wait any longer. He wanted to tell the world that she was his wife. At that time, no matter how reluctant she was destined to be labeled as Li Xiqing's wife. Chapter 178. Okay, I'll do it. Didn't you say you were going fishing? The hooks are ready. Let's go. Adwa came over and took all the work, shoving a few fishing rods into her hands. However, she did not dare to look at Xing Shiming, fearing that he would blame her. Fortunately, after Xing Shiming took the fishing rods, he did not say anything. He picked up the bucket and took Su Qianxi to the boat. Su Qianxi looked a bit excited. Putting down the things, she trotted over with Xing Shiming. However, when she was about to get on the boat, she was pulled back by a big hand. Li Xiqing looked cold. Seeing her confused look, he said, "Slow down." Then he got on the boat first and reached out his hand to her. Oh. Su Qianxi stuck her tongue out and slowed down. She took his hand and walked up. Song Yifan saw that and felt relieved. Soon, he got on the boat as well. The small boat slowly moved to the middle of the sea and stopped. Xing Shiming was a good fisherman, which Su Qianxi had always known. However, in less than 10 minutes, there were already 2 fish in his bucket, and Li Xiqing, not a single one. Holding the fishing rod, Su Qianxi sat there seriously, peeking at Li Xiqing and then at Song Yifan. Neither of them had caught any fish, but obviously, Li Xiqing was much calmer than Song Yifan. Seeming to notice her gaze, he glanced over, calm and indifferent. Su Qianxi stuck her tongue out at him and quickly turned her head to stare at the calm sea. Just where she did not see, there was a gentle smile in Li Xiqing's cold eyes. About 10 minutes later, Su Qianxi felt a bit restless. When she was thinking about leaving, the fishing rod suddenly moved. Opening her eyes in surprise, Su Qianxi was excited. "I got it! Mr. Li, look, I got it!" Seeing that she was as excited as a child, Li Xiqing curled his lips and grabbed her fishing rod. "The fish is going to escape." "Oh, right." Su Qianxi quickly reeled in the line. A fish was struggling, splashing water on them. "Mr. Li." Song Yifan looked up. His eyes, which had always been gentle, became sharp at this moment. "Aren't you husband and wife?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, and the smile on her face froze. Inexplicably, she felt guilty. Husband and wife. Are they husband and wife? Although their relationship had eased recently, this word was still so distant for Su Qianxi. Married couple. It was as if she had stolen it. She did not feel comfortable using the title of Li Xiqing's wife. But he did admit it, didn't he? He seemed to like her, didn't he? Subconsciously, he looked at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing also paused. Seeing Su Qianxi's stiff face, his eyes darkened. But very quickly, he calmly removed the hook and placed it on the small bucket beside her. He calmly said, "It's just a form of address, but you have to change it in the future. Don't let outsiders misunderstand." "Yes. It's just a form of address." She nodded. "I see." Looking at Su Qianxi's face, Song Yifan was dazed. After a few seconds, he said, "With all due respect, Miss Su, you look a lot like a friend of mine." Chapter 179. Don't get me wrong. That friend of mine is only 2 years younger than me, and she is gone. Song Yifan's eyes dimmed. Rong Xian? Su Qianxi asked. In the past, when she and Xing Ximing were very close, this was the name that came out of his mouth the most. However, he called her Xian. If she guessed correctly, this woman should not only be Xing Ximing's first love, but also Song Yifan's ex-girlfriend. Their relationship was a bit complicated, however, it was clear that the reason why they had a falling out was because of this dead Rong Xian. Song Yifan was dazed. How do you know? He looked at Xing Ximing. Xing Ximing was also surprised to hear the name from Su Qianxi and looked over. Seeing their gazes, Su Qianxi knew that she had guessed correctly. She coughed and said, "Uncle Xing mentioned this name by accident once, and I remembered it." Really? I mentioned it. Xing Ximing felt a bit strange. For him and Song Yifan, this name was an untouchable memory. There was no reason for him to tell her. However, if he did not expose it, how did she know? Yes. I did. Su Qianxi felt a bit guilty and quickly changed the topic. I really want to see how much she looks like me. When Uncle Sheng saw me for the first time, he also said that I look like her. Her laughter was a bit forced, and Li Xiqing couldn't stand it anymore. He pulled her to his side and whispered, "Have I told you that you're not good at lying?" Su Qianxi blushed and said, I did not lie." She really did not lie. She had heard it from Xing Ximing, just not in this lifetime. Fortunately, Xing Ximing and Song Yifan did not care about that. Song Yifan smiled, took out his wallet from his pocket, and opened it, revealing an old-fashioned color photo. It looked a bit old, and the photo was slightly yellow. However, it was well preserved, and the photo was very clear. There were 2 people in the photo, a man and a woman. The man was gentle, handsome, and tall. The woman was smiling, wearing a light yellow dress and a yellow floral hat. She was holding the man's arm and looking forward. The face under the hat was very similar to Su Qianxi's. At first glance, Su Qianxi thought it was her. He widened his eyes and took a closer look. Only then did he notice a slight difference in his facial features. Rong Xian's nose was taller, while hers was smaller. Rong Xian's lips were a little thick, and her smile was sexy and cute. Her lips, on the other hand, were smaller and thinner. Touching her lips, she looked up at Song Yifan. However, when she looked up, she saw that he was looking at her warmly. Deep in his eyes, there was an indescribable meaning. This is Ah Xian, a photo from 22 years ago. At that time, she and I almost registered for marriage, but after this photo was taken, she disappeared. Song Yifan looked at her and said sadly, 2 years later, her body was found in a mountain in the 100,000 mountain. 22 years ago, Su Qianxi's heart was beating fast. She was almost 21 years old. In addition, that face was extremely similar to his. Could it really be such a coincidence? Chapter 180. But that was impossible. Her mother was Su Han. Moreover, back then, Su Han had been abducted to the 100,000 mountains and, after that, she had given birth to her, hadn't she? Although Su Qianxi did not want to admit it, her biological father was most likely a dark and ugly mountain man who could not find a wife, so he sold women to reproduce. How did it become Song Yifan now? As Su Qianxi's heart was pounding, Song Yifan continued, however, you were sent to the orphanage 3 years later, and the woman who sent you there was Rong Xian. That was to say, Rong Xian was not dead. Are you sure? Yes, I am very sure. Song Yifan looked at her. These days, I have done a thorough investigation. You are the child, but he was not sure if she was his child. The probability of this happening was too small, too small. You suspect that she is your daughter? Li Xiqing asked for him. Song Yifan was silent, and so was Xing Shiming. It was not so much suspicion. Or rather, hope. He hoped that Su Qianxi was his and Rong Xian's child, or rather, he hoped that he and Rong Xian had a child. She had left and had not returned for 22 years. He had waited and thought for too long. God knew how surprised he was when Xing Shiming hurriedly called him back from abroad to tell him the news. He wished he could take her to the hospital for a paternity test. But now, he did not dare to do that. He was afraid that if she was not his daughter, hey! Ah, Duo's voice came from the coast. The barbecue is ready. Come back and eat. Xing Shiming responded to Ah Duo and quickly said to them, let's go. Let's not talk about this anymore. We are all out on vacation. Let's go. The boat returned to the coast. Ah Duo and Ollie kept showing off their affection, while Su Qianxi was a bit worried because of what Song Yifan had just said. She did not eat much and left with Li Xiqing. Back at the hotel, it was already past 6 p.m. Su Qianxi sat on the bed, thinking about what Song Yifan had just said. Don't think too much. He is not your father. Li Xiqing handed her a glass of warm water, his voice still cold. What? She looked up. How did you know? I guessed. But I think the possibility is very high. What should I do? That Rong Xian really looks like me. Don't you think? Yes, but she's not Su Han. I know, she had seen Su Han's photo before. At that time, she felt that she looked different from Su Han. She thought that she looked like her father. But now that she thought about it, her unpopularity in the Su family and her uncle's distant attitude towards her. She originally thought that it was because she hadn't grown up with them and wasn't close to them. But now that she thought about it, perhaps they already knew that she wasn't Su Han's daughter. In other words, it had nothing to do with them. That was why they hated and distanced themselves from him, right? She suddenly felt that her life was full of mysteries. Su Han, Rong Xian, Song Yifan, Shirwan Mountain, don't even think about it. Whether your mother is Rong Xian or Su Han, a woman who can throw such a young child into an orphanage is not a good mother. And a man who can't even protect his wife can't be a good father. Su Qianxi heard that and nodded. So, you don't need parents. You just need to know that you have a good husband. Wan Lily, Chan, how does it feel to be liked by the man you've had a crush on for 2 lifetimes? Su Qianxi, it feels like a dream. Chapter 181. You just need to know that you have a good husband, and you can, good husband. Su Qianxi suddenly understood and looked up at him. She thought that these 2 words were so far away. But now, her husband was right in front of her, in the same room as her. There was no disgust or rejection. He was still him, indifferent, noble, and unparalleled. He told her that she had a good husband. Her eyes were slightly wet, and Su Qianxi suddenly felt the satisfaction of years of obsession coming true. The surprise came too fast, too sudden, and she had not fully accepted it. Li Xiqing saw her slightly wet eyes, and his eyes darkened. He said in a low voice, seducing me. He reached out and took away the cup of warm water in her hand. Li Xiqing squeezed his thigh between hers and pushed her down. Su Qianxi was shocked. Facing his burning eyes, she timidly said, "Did not." How did she seduce him? She clearly did not do anything. Seeing her scared look, the heat in his eyes gradually faded. He pulled her up and asked, "Why are you afraid of me?" Every single time, he could see the frightened look on her face. At first, he thought it was quite fun. But later, he found that she was not pretending, but really scared. Was he scary? Or could it be that he had done something so outrageous that she would be so afraid when she saw him? "I did not," Su Qianxi weakly denied. Li Xiqing saw her averting eyes and looked away. His voice was a bit cold as he said, "I don't want to have a wife with a heart disease when I'm not old yet." "That's right." Su Qianxi was a bit confused, looking at him with her dark eyes. "So, don't be afraid of me." Su Qianxi blushed, unable to suppress the happiness, and nodded. Okay, it was the first time that Li Xiqing had seen such a delicate look. It turned out that she was like this. So beautiful. Holding the back of her head with his big hand, he took her lips in his mouth and sucked on them gently. Su Qianxi's heart was pounding, and her body was a bit weak. Soon, she fell onto the bed. With the weight of two people, the soft bed gently shook. Gently and awkwardly, she put her arms around his waist and closed her eyes. She was so nervous that she trembled. Li Xiqing noticed her response, and a hint of desire flashed in his eyes. He leaned down and deepened the kiss that he had only intended to kiss her lightly. His kiss was wanton and unrestrained. He easily pried open her lips and teeth and deeply captured her little tongue that had curled up in fear. He sucked on it firmly and hugged her even tighter with his arms. But very quickly, he let go of her, his breathing a little hurried. "Breathe, idiot." Su Qianxi felt a little suffocated. Hearing that, she let out a sigh of relief and took a deep breath. Her cheeks were pink, and her pitch-black eyes were watery as she looked at him. Loose strands of hair fell from her forehead, and her black hair and fair face formed a strong visual impact. Naked seduction. Li Xiqing only felt a spark suddenly rising. With the rise and fall of the breath of the person under him, it gradually turned into a raging fire, out of control. Lowering his head, he kissed her lips again, but this time, he was not satisfied with just a kiss. Chapter 182. Feeling his big hand lifting the hem of her dress, she suddenly woke up and pressed his big hand. Li Xiqing paused and looked up at her, breathing a little fast. His wet red lips looked wild and tempting. He slightly stuck out his tongue and licked them. Su Qianxi suddenly felt her head buzzing and couldn't help but clamp her legs. However, they were tightly wrapped around his strong thighs. Li Xiqing's reaction was even more intense. Su Qianxi could clearly see the desire on his face. Blushing, she said in a low voice, "Mr. Li, don't do red light challenge." Li Xiqing was dazed for a second, but soon realized what she meant. His red lips were tightly pursed. His soft face suddenly became tense and restrained. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why do women have this thing?" Su Qianxi said, "Without this thing, we can't have children." Hearing that, Li Xiqing's expression softened a little. He looked down and said, "Yes, for our children." Our children? Su Qianxi thought of the child who died before she had time to discover it and felt a bit sad. Li Xiqing glanced at her face and continued calmly, "I want 2 children, a girl and a boy. Together, they make up a good family. How can you have whatever you want? Now we have family planning, the 2-child policy has been implemented. You can have 2 children. But up until now, they hadn't done anything. Could it be that he was thinking too early? Besides, she was still in school. She did not want to drop out of school because of pregnancy and end up being despised by everyone like in her previous lifetime. That feeling was really not good. I feel so bad. Li Xiqing looked like he was trying to hold back. Holding her hand, he touched his lower body. Su Qianxi was burned through his pants. She quickly closed her eyes and looked away. You. Go take a shower. When I'm better, then, do it again. However, was this an invitation? Woo. Would he think that she was too unreserved? However, it seemed that she had no other choice. She wanted to urge him to hurry up and take a shower, but her little hand was held again. Her fingers were pinched, holding a small metal object. With a slight sound, she heard the sound of a belt buckle being unbuckled. Startled, she opened her eyes and saw him holding her hand to help pull up the zipper of his pants. "Ah, you, help me, wifey," the casual title hit her heart, the softest part. He took off his casual shirt, revealing a pair of dark boxer shorts. In the middle of his pants, there was a huge bulge hidden, full of explosive power. Ah! She quickly closed her eyes and turned her head, not daring to look at him. How terrifying! How did she get in with such an exaggerated thing? Her part. Wasn't it crushed? He bent down and stroked her hand down, whispering, "Good girl, open your eyes." She shook her head again and again, insisting on not opening her eyes. The warmth from her palm made her heart beat faster. Chapter 183. Su Qianxi did not dare to open her eyes, but the burning sensation on her hand made her blush. Quietly, she opened her eyes a little. Through her blurry vision, she saw his neat upper body. Li Xiqing's face was covered with a thin layer of sweat, and the blue veins on his temples were throbbing. "Sit up." Su Qianxi's head buzzed, and she closed her eyes again, not wanting to look at him. Where was he supposed to be aloof and noble? Why was he so promiscuous now? He wanted her to help him with her hand. That was so exciting. Su Qianxi could not accept it. However, her hand was held by him, and she could not get rid of it. She clearly felt her hand being pulled away from the thin layer of cloth. Something suddenly popped out and hit her hand. The scorching heat made her want to escape subconsciously. However, he grabbed her hand and gently led her hand to hold that. The room was full of charm. When it ended, it was almost 8 o'clock, and the sky outside was completely dark. Su Qianxi felt her hand was so sore that it was about to break. She looked at him with tears in her eyes and pursed her lips. He gave her a deep kiss on the corner of her lips before he walked into the bathroom. Su Qianxi's hand was sore and painful. Seeing the mess on the bed, she called the internal line for room service. After changing the sheets, he had already walked out of the bathroom. His body was hot and wet, but his temperament was cold. Su Qianxi saw him and blushed again. She lowered her head and was about to run into the bathroom. Li Xiqing curled his lips and pulled her back. She became even more nervous and turned her head to look at him. "What? What's wrong? Let's go eat later." "Yeah." She blushed and threw his hand away, walking into the bathroom. After the shower, she found that she did not bring any clothes. She struggled in front of the mirror for a moment before weakly opening the door a little. She called out, "Mr. Li, can you get me a set of clothes?" There was no response. Was he not there? She called again, "Mr. Li." After the second sound, there was finally a slight noise outside. Li Xiqing's cold voice came over. "Change the way you address me." Hearing that name, she paused and thought for a moment. Li Xiqing. Xiqing. Still not enough. Then there was only that left. Su Qianxi blushed and said in a low voice, "Honey, I didn't hear you." The voice was a little lazy, and there seemed to be a hint of a smile in it. Su Qianxi blushed even more and summoned her courage. "Honey." What are you doing? Help me get some clothes." Before he could finish his words, a large hand holding a set of clothes stuffed into the room. She had a white dress and underwear, and on top of that, there was a sanitary pad. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. Hiding at the door, she grabbed the clothes and slammed the door shut. Li Xiqing laughed. It seemed that this feeling was pretty good. After cleaning herself up, she went downstairs. Grandpa was already sitting in the dining room, reading the newspaper and eating. "Qian, Grandpa ordered your favorite steak for you." "Thank you, Grandpa." Su Qianxi picked up the knife and fork, but found that her right hand was a bit numb, and the knife suddenly slipped from her hand. The knife fell on the glass table, making a crisp sound. Grandpa was startled. "What's wrong?" Chapter 184. Su Qianxi blushed even more. Lowering her head, she picked up the knife and pinched his thigh with her other hand. Li Xiqing did not move, as if he did not feel the pain. He calmly asked the waiter to change the knife for her. "Why are your hands sore all of a sudden?" Captain Li was puzzled. "In the afternoon, eat." Su Qianxi grabbed a piece of bread and stuffed it into his mouth. She couldn't have looked more guilty. Old Master Li was also an experienced person. Seeing her like that, he knew that his grandson must have done something terrible. His pair of old eyes glanced at the young couple in front of him and he chuckled. Inexplicably, Su Qianxi felt blood rushing to her head, and her brain was buzzing. What did Grandpa mean? Could it be that he could even know what it meant? Ah! So embarrassing. Li Xiqing took a bite of the bread in his mouth and continued, "We went to the barbecue in the afternoon. It's inevitable that we are a bit tired." Oh! Captain Li looked enlightened and looked at Su Qianxi. "It's just a barbecue. Why are you so shy? Did something happen during the barbecue?" Nothing happened during the barbecue, but after the barbecue, Su Qianxi silently lowered her head and cut the steak. However, her right hand was a bit sore and weak. After a long time, she only cut a few small pieces. He took the steak in front of her and handed it to her. His voice was cold and extremely calm. "Eat more to replenish your strength. We'll continue tonight." Su Qianxi nodded. "Let's continue." Su Qianxi's hand trembled and almost dropped the fork. Facing Grandpa's curious gaze, she awkwardly stretched out her leg and kicked him. "Continue at night." "Continue my ass. You're F***king having fun, but my hands are so sore." Li Xiqing's expression did not change. Looking at Grandpa who was eager to gossip, he said, "Don't get involved in young people's business." "Are you full?" "No." Captain Li said, "Even if you don't tell me, I know." "Then let's eat." "Okay." After the meal, Su Qianxi did not dare to speak again. After eating, Grandpa expressed his interest in night fishing. The two accompanied their grandfather to go fishing. After playing for more than an hour, the old man was a little tired. After sending Grandpa back to his room, when he was about to open the door, Su Qianxi had already slipped away. Su Qianxi thought he did not notice her, turned around and walked away quietly. "Why are you running?" An indifferent and cold voice sounded, causing her back to stiffen. "Go back to sleep, it's late." In the end, he added, "Just sleep." Oh. Su Qianxi blushed and walked back, saying, "In fact, I just want to see what else is fun, not run away." "Yes, I believe you." Li Xiqing's lips curled slightly, but it was so faint that she did not notice it at all. Hearing what he said, she felt even more embarrassed. As soon as the door opened, she went straight into the bathroom. After washing up and changing into pajamas, she went around Li Xiqing and lay on the bed, covering her head with the blanket. Before she knew it, she fell asleep. She did not know how long she had slept, but her body felt like it was on fire. A fire was burning on her body. Occasionally, it would burn her waist, her face, her chest, and her legs. Wan Lily, Chan, be careful. Don't sleep too deeply with a man. Don't sleep too deeply. Don't sleep too deeply. Chapter 185. She opened her eyes in a daze. The room was so dark that there was no light at all. An arm was draped over her upper body, which made her arm a bit numb. She turned her body slightly, moved his arm away, and turned over to look at his deep and distinct facial features. Li Xiqing was breathing evenly, looking like he was sleeping soundly. She reached out and touched the tip of his nose. Her fingertip slowly slid up, down the bridge of his nose, to his eyes, his eyebrows, and finally, his eyelashes. Li Xiqing's eyelashes were very long. He had never used eyeliner, but his eyelashes were dark and fascinating. Although the light was dim, Su Qianxi could still see his thick eyeliner and long eyelashes with his eyes closed. Looking down, her fingertip also fell on his lips. It was slippery, thin, and tender. It feels so good. Su Qianxi murmured. When she took her hand away, she saw his lips slightly curled up. Su Qianxi was shocked and quickly closed her eyes, pretending to be asleep. Li Xiqing opened his eyes, dark and bright. He did not look like he was asleep at all. Seeing Su Qianxi pretending to be asleep, he tightened his arms and whispered in her ear, "It tastes good. Do you want to confirm it?" Su Qianxi's hand under the quilt suddenly grabbed the bedsheet. She felt like she had been caught doing something bad. Whatever, she was asleep and did not hear it. Seeing that she did not respond, Li Xiqing whispered again, "Asleep?" Then he moved away slightly. Su Qianxi let out a sigh of relief, but before she could completely relax, she felt a weight on her and was kissed on her lips. She suddenly opened her eyes and saw that Li Xiqing had laid back down, eyes closed, and did not say a word. Su Qianxi was too shy to show her face. Slightly moving away from him, she wanted to stay away from him, but Li Xiqing's arms tightened even more, and his thighs pinned her in his arms. "Be quiet when you sleep." Li Xiqing said this without blushing or panting. His big hand quickly moved from her shoulder to her waist. Su Qianxi suddenly realized that the fire she had felt in her sleep had come from this. He curled his lips and muttered, "I wonder who's the dishonest one. I can be even more dishonest." Hearing Li Xiqing's cold voice, she immediately became quiet, closed her eyes, and let him hold her, not daring to move. Su Qianxi's sleep had always been fast, and she soon fell asleep again. She did not notice that the man next to her was suffering until dawn. As soon as he woke up, he received a call from Kingstown. It was Luihan. Glancing at Li Xiqing, who was still asleep, she silently walked into the bathroom to answer the phone. "Hello. Chan, when are you coming back? What's the date today?" 6. "Oh, tomorrow. What's wrong?" "Big news, the day after tomorrow is Lin Wanting's wedding. Did you know?" "Oh, number 8, right? I know. She sent me an invitation a long time ago. Do you want to go?" "Why should I go?" Lily said that she would definitely go. She asked me to inform you and pull you along." "Okay, I won't go." Last time, if she had not reacted fast enough, she would have been treated like that by Ding Haibao. Why should she give face to such a person? She knew very well how valuable the title of Mrs. Li was. "I see. One more thing, about your husband." Chapter 186. Well. Luihan stuttered, as if he was too embarrassed to speak. Louis Han rarely acted like this. Could it be that he had discovered Li Xiqing's secret? Su Qianxi felt uneasy and yelled, "Speak. I heard that your husband is going to host a cocktail party and will invite a lot of big names and famous people." I was thinking, hearing that, Su Qianxi let out a sigh of relief. I thought it was something big. Just a small thing. A small thing, yeah. For him and his company, it was a big thing for the rest of his life. If he could attend, even if he just showed his face, it would be a great honor. Moreover, he was going to do more than just show his face. If he could pull in an investment or make a friend, he would be able to rise to the top easily. Although Louis Han was a nerd, he had a high EQ and had always been good at socializing. Maybe he could really fool some people. I see. I will send you an invitation. Su Qianxi chuckled. Did you know that this cocktail party is actually my meeting? Grandpa. He did it for me. Louis Han gasped on the other end of the phone. What the hell? Did it for you? Such a big cocktail party. Just for you to meet him. Su Qianxi blinked and asked, "Is it very big?" Of course. From international well-known enterprises to large domestic companies, there are also many well-known figures in other fields, such as Kingstown's new IT expert Luo Zhan, or City C's young master O Ming, or the representative of the music family, such as. So big. Su Qianxi really had no idea. Thinking of what had happened yesterday, she said, "If we can also invite Song Yifen's band, will it be even bigger?" Song Yifen's band. OMG. Louis Han exclaimed. That is not a band that can be hired with money. Your husband is so awesome. It's just a so-so. Although she said that, she had already curled her lips and looked into the mirror. The girl in the mirror was dressed in a white silk nightgown, and her eyes were tinged with pride and satisfaction, as well as happiness. She was dazed and quickly looked at herself in the mirror, but she still felt so happy. F***ck. Louis Han was a little angry. I don't care. I have to go that day. I want to announce to the world that Mrs. Li is a good friend of my Louis Han. It's only worthwhile to get some attention from her. Fine, I'll let you rub. She chuckled. That's enough. I need to freshen up. Bye. Bye-bye. After hanging up the phone, washing up, and going out, it was almost 9 o'clock. Sitting on the bed, Li Xiqing had a cigarette between his long fingers. A third of the ash had been burned, and it was hanging down. She quickly took the ashtray and waved her long finger in front of him. What's wrong? Li Xiqing looked up, his eyes cold and sharp. Who are you talking to? Su Qianxi was caught off guard and knew that he must have thought too much. She explained, it's Louis Han. So honest. Li Xiqing was a bit surprised and looked at her. You should know that he and I developed a music software together. He wants to attend the party on the 15th on behalf of our company. Is that okay? You want him to come? He is my good friend. Of course I want him to come. Chapter 187. Are you sure we are just good friends? These words were obviously not quite right. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. She leaned over and put her hands on his shoulders. What do you think is my relationship with him? Li Xiqing was speechless. He still cared about the green hat last time. Therefore, when she had a miscarriage, he deliberately let Louis Han spend time with her alone. Although he felt sad and did not feel good, he had helped them, right? Hearing her question, Li Xiqing did not speak. He slowly put the cigarette to his lips, took a puff, and slowly exhaled the white smoke. I have not had many friends since I was a kid. Yeah. He knew that with her IQ and EQ, it would be impossible for her to have any friends. I used to think that Luanen was a good friend, but she ruined everything. That was something that happened in her previous life. Only in this life did she realize that what she thought was what she thought. It wasn't real. I used to think that Lin Wanting was my good friend. Later, I realized how silly I was. Indeed, it was quite silly. Those two people didn't look like good people at first glance. Li Xiqing's cold eyes glanced over. Only Louis Han was my classmate in middle school and high school. We were desk mates for many years, and he has always been nice to me. His indifferent eyes gradually became cold and sinister. Su Qianxi's heart raced and she said nervously, "But friendship is everything, and we are not yet lovers. Friendship is everything, and we are not yet lovers." Who could guarantee that? Their relationship was really too good. If you do not like him, I will try to keep a distance from him. Su Qianxi felt wronged and looked at him carefully. In the future, except for work, try not to have anything to do with him. How about that? He put out the cigarette and squinted at her. He is not yet lovers. What about me? Well. Su Qianxi looked at his face, pretended to hesitate, and giggled. You are not yet lovers. Li Xiqing smiled, put his arms around her waist, and let her sit on his lap. Kiss me. But you have not brushed your teeth yet. Dislike. Seeing his dangerous and threatening eyes, Su Qianxi couldn't resist him and kissed him on the lips. That's it. What else? This is a kiss, not a kiss. Su Qianxi blushed. Thinking of how he kissed her, she slowly leaned over and gently kissed his lips. His lips, thin, cool, and smooth, the texture was really good. He sucked lightly, his movements jerky and careful. However, it made Li Xiqing very uncomfortable. His large hands grabbed her head and forcefully deepened the kiss. He pried open her lips and teeth, robbing all the air in her mouth. It was rare that Su Qianxi did not struggle at all. She put her arms around his neck and responded. However, this jerky movement was more like a spark that lit the fuse. Just as he was about to lose control, he abruptly stopped. She gasped, looking at him with a blushing face and blurred eyes. He kissed the corner of her lips and said, "I'll take you to play something fun later." Fun. Yes, although not as fun as sex. Chapter 188. Li Xiqing said it was fun, and it was really exciting and fun. The breeze blew her hair, and her long, straight hair was tied up. Blushing, she stared down. Looking down from the sky, she felt that her whole body was shaking, but it was also exciting. Oh! What should we do? Will we fall to our deaths? What if we fall to our deaths? Li Xiqing curled his lips and said calmly, "No, I will be the last one for you." A staff member standing next to him asked, "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Brave girl, protect the good lady, sir." Li Xiqing turned his face and saw her excited and scared face. His heart softened, and he said, "Yes." "Oh. I'm so scared." "It's so exciting, Mr. Li." "What did you call me?" "Li." "Honey." "Ah." Su Qianxi did not dare to open her eyes, and the horrible feeling of falling made her extremely uneasy. Her body trembled even more, and she did not dare to open her eyes. Wow! A faint sound was heard, and the two of them were caught in mid-air, reducing the extent of their fall. A big hand held her arm, and a cold and magnetic voice came to her ear. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." This voice had an inexplicable soothing power. Su Qianxi's body gradually stopped shaking, and she opened her eyes boldly. Turning her head, she saw the man next to her against the light. Still cold, still calm. His face was so calm that it seemed that he was not flying in the sky. Feeling a bit embarrassed, she did not know how much impact her appearance had on the seemingly calm man in front of her. Her delicate and pretty little face, in the broken mottled sunlight, seemed to be plated with a layer of golden light, sacred and white, inviolable. One glance, 10,000 years. Su Qianxi looked away from his burning eyes, and soon her eyes lit up, shouting excitedly, "It's so beautiful. Look, look." Li Xiqing looked away, and with a shallow smile, his eyes fell on the beautiful scenery that amazed her. The winding mountain range, the blue sea and the blue sky, the seagulls flapping their wings, flying against the wind with their backs to them. The faint white hazy fog obstructed their vision, covering the already majestic and boundless world with a layer of mystery. This was a majestic sight that could not be described by all the thick brush strokes and ink in Huaxia. At this moment, everything was under their feet. It was beautiful. Li Xiqing replied, "Yes, it is." However, no matter how great the rivers and mountains were, they were not as good as a beauty's smile. Su Qianxi did not hear his voice, looking down in fascination. This was the first time she had seen such scenery. In both her past and present lives, this was the first time she had traveled, and this was the first time she had experienced such magnificence. What was even more unexpected was that the person next to her was Li Xiqing. If it was in the past, he wouldn't even dare to dream about it. But now, unknowingly, it had become a reality, wifey. His voice was low and mellow, and it was blown into her ears by the wind. Su Qianxi was still a bit unfamiliar with this form of address. Dazed for 2 seconds, she suddenly came to herself and turned to look at him. But before she could take a closer look, her red lips were sealed. The ice-cold sensation caused her to widen her eyes in disbelief. "High in the sky, kiss, Wan Lily, these chapters are so sweet that my heart is about to explode. Do you like it?" Li Xiqing, "Yes." Chapter 189. Suddenly, a light flashed in front of her. Su Qianxi blinked and saw it was a drone. Ah! It seemed to have been taken. So embarrassing. However, being kissed in the air was so exciting. Su Qianxi's heart was pounding, and she felt that her body was falling. Gradually, she landed on a large open space, and the parachute on top of her head was covering her. However, Li Xiqing still had no intention of letting go. Licking her pink lips with the tip of his tongue, Li Xiqing smacked his lips and slowly began to take off the equipment. And Su Qianxi blushed and stood there, not knowing what to do for a moment. "Good." A foreigner walked over with a tablet. "This is so romantic." Su Qianxi looked at the tablet. On the screen, a man was kissing a woman, and the woman widened her eyes and looked incredulous. The photo slid down, and the woman's face became redder and redder. Su Qianxi blushed even more and said, "How can you take photos? This is a feature of our tribe. We will use drones to capture your reactions and status at any time in case of accidents. At the same time, we will record every beautiful moment for you." Li Xiqing reached out and took off the equipment for Su Qianxi, then looked at the foreigner. "Can you give me the photos?" "No. They are so ugly. Delete them." Su Qianxi looked at herself in the photos. Several of them were completely distorted and ugly. How could such a photo be left behind? However, the foreigner ignored Su Qianxi's protest and looked directly at Li Xiqing. "Of course, but there is a charge." "Which one do you want?" "All of them." The foreigner was overjoyed. There were at least a few thousand photos in this set of photos from the top to the bottom. The price was very expensive. It was not that he had never met rich people before, but this man did not even ask before taking all of them. This was the first time. Okay, then wait a moment. I will print out the photos for you, but there are a lot of photos, so it may take a while. Leave your address, and I will send them to you after I print them. Li Xiqing nodded and wrote down his hotel room number on the tablet. Su Qianxi pouted, feeling a bit depressed. What a terrible photographer. He made her look so ugly. Seeing her expression, Li Xiqing did not speak. He took her hand and was about to walk to the cable car station. Let's go eat. Hey, wait. The foreigner from earlier rushed over again with 2 pieces of paper in his hand. When he arrived in front of them, he was already panting. My wife likes these 2 pieces of paper, so I washed them first to give them to you. Here, take them. Su Qianxi took it, and the depression in her heart was gone. In the first photo, a man and a woman were on a parachute. The woman's ponytail was fluttering in the wind, looking a little messy. From the angle of the photo, one could only see the woman's long and thick eyelashes and a small portion of her fair face. The man's face was slightly slanted, his facial features perfect. His eyes were closed, but there was an indescribable sense of gentleness. Was this really Li Xiqing? He actually had such a side to him. What made her feel like she was in a dream was that the person he was facing was actually herself. Chapter 190. The other photo was also in the air, but the angle had been completely changed. In the photo, she was looking at him in shock. From this angle, they could see each other's eyelashes, lips, and nose, blocking her from the view. Only her blushing face could be seen. What should she do? She felt like she was going to heaven. Staring at the photo, Su Qianxi's smile gradually widened. Her face was blushing, and her eyebrows were brimming with happiness. Do you like it? Yes. She liked both of them very, very much. They were not only 2 photos, but also a dream that she had had for 2 lifetimes. Now, the dream had finally come true. She did not notice the smile on Li Xiqing's face. He said, if you like it, then kiss me a few more times. Su Qianxi heard that and immediately looked up. Seeing the people around her, she quickly ran away. Li Xiqing's smile widened, and he reached out to her. Let's go eat. However, Su Qianxi stared at his lips, a bit dazed. He was smiling. She rubbed her eyes, thinking she had seen it wrong. However, when she calmed down, it was still the same smile. Seeming to have noticed her attention, Li Xiqing's smile suddenly disappeared. He pretended to be unhappy and asked, "What's wrong? You look so good when you smile. Smile again." The remaining smile on Li Xiqing's face completely disappeared, and he was speechless. Smile again. You look so good when you smile. What a waste. Li Xiqing didn't know what to say and walked forward. Su Qianxi quickly caught up with him, going from his left to his right. I haven't seen enough yet. Li Xiqing was speechless. Going from his right to his left, she begged, Mr. Li Xiqing, honey. Li Xiqing finally could not bear it anymore. He pulled her over and held her in his arms, whispering, be quiet. She wanted him to smile, and he would smile just because she wanted him to. You have to know that smiling also requires feeling. Su Qianxi was suddenly hugged, so she immediately shut up. She struggled, but could not move. Li Xiqing looked down at her and took her to the cable car station. The skydiving location was some distance away from the bottom of the island. There was a cable car that could reach the bottom of the island. On the cable car, Su Qianxi was let go of. She carefully put the 2 photos in her hand into her pocket. After making sure that they were safe, she looked out the window. In the Maldives, it was like spring all year round. It was said that the surrounding scenery was the same all year round and would never change much. The azure blue ocean below was connected to a large green area. Seagulls spread their wings and flew high. The pedestrians below were like ants. Su Qianxi was almost leaning against the window, looking down at everything. When the cable car was almost at the station, she reluctantly looked away. But when she turned around, she was caught off guard to find that the man was looking at her from the side. His deep, pitch-black eyes were unwavering. His heartbeat suddenly began to accelerate. Had he been watching her all this time? In his mind, he suddenly thought of a sentence from Broken Chapter: "You stand on the bridge and look at the scenery, but the person who is looking at the scenery is looking at you from above." But, could she have also decorated his dream? Wan Lily, some readers say that you are too sweet, so I plan to torture you. What do you want to say? Li Xiqing, why don't you try? Wan Lily, lost in thought, Broken Chapter by Bian Jilin. You look at the scenery on the bridge. The person who is looking at you from above the moon decorates your window. Chapter 191. After getting off the cable car, Su Qianxi couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. Her face was blushing, and she did not say a word while being held by Li Xiqing. Seeing her look, Li Xiqing's eyes, which had always been cold and deep, softened slightly. "Boss," a familiar female voice said. Su Qianxi looked over and saw it was Qingyu. Seeing Su Qianxi's surprised eyes, Qingyu smiled. "Long time no see, madam." "Well, madam." Su Qianxi also smiled back and turned to look at the man next to her. "Done." "Yes, I have almost checked what you asked me to. It is not much different from what you expected, but..." Qingyu paused and looked at Su Qianxi, hesitating. Su Qianxi was not stupid and said, "I will go back and change first. You guys talk first." "Okay." Li Xiqing rubbed her hair. "Be careful." Su Qianxi nodded, feeling a little disappointed. Although she was the one who proposed to go first, she still felt a little upset that Li Xiqing agreed so easily. Why did she feel that they were going to tell her some big secrets? "Let's go to the coffee shop, boss." "Okay." After Su Qianxi returned to the room, she was not in a hurry to get changed. Instead, she picked up her phone and scrolled through Weibo. After playing for 10 minutes, she felt a little bored. Swiping her finger, she typed 3 words, Li Xiqing. The first hot topic was, Li Xiqing holds a luxury cocktail party, and all the industry leaders are scrambling to go, spending a lot of money just for a girl. It was very eye-catching and very high profile. She glanced at the time, and it turned out to be 3 days ago. And she only learned about it yesterday. Was he trying to surprise her? Su Qianxi felt sweet and rolled on the bed with the phone in her arms. Thinking of how Li Xiqing kissed her, she couldn't help blushing again. Besides, she was here helping him yesterday afternoon. That scene seemed to be poisoned, lingering in his mind without dissipating. Her arms still seemed to be sore. She rubbed them and buried her face in the pillow, trying to drive away those evil images. "Oh. Go away." Ding dong. A WeChat message came in. It was from Yu Lily. Louis Han and Yu Lily were sitting and eating. Yu Lily was smiling happily, but Louis Han looked a little helpless. What does that mean? Is Yu Lily demonstrating to me? But what about O Ming? Looking at this picture, Su Qianxi had an ominous feeling. I'm afraid Yu Lily will be out of luck. Bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. She put away her phone and opened the door, but it was not Li Xiqing. Instead, it was a short-haired woman holding a large gift box, dressed in fashionable clothes, somewhat similar to Qingyu. However, she was not disappointed, but shocked. You are. Sunny. She was very surprised that the lady boss knew her. She didn't expect that her fame had already reached the lady boss's level. It felt pretty good. Su Qianxi was a bit shocked. If she remembered correctly, this Sunny would become one of the top magicians in the makeup industry in 3 or 4 years, truly turning something rotten into something magical. Chapter 192. Letting Sunny do whatever he wanted, Su Qianxi watched her hair being let down, tossed around, and finally, even her shirt was taken off. Sunny looked at her chest in amazement. Wow, this chest shape is simply amazing. It's so beautiful. Su Qianxi was speechless. Instinctively, he hugged his chest to block her view. Although Li Xiqing looked like a woman, it seemed that she was gay. Sunny did not notice and excitedly took out a brand new bra from her bag and shouted, "Put it on. It's super tight and super sexy." Seeing Su Qianxi did not move, Sunny shouted again, "Come on, let me help you." Su Qianxi quickly blocked her hand and smiled awkwardly. "I can do it myself." Clearly aware of Su Qianxi's rejection, Sunny muttered to herself, "You are really as cold as the boss." "Wait, there is also this, put it on together." "Ah." Su Qianxi looked at the clothes in front of her. One was red, one was light gold, and one was aqua green. They all looked very nice, but she couldn't wear all of them. "Let's go with this one. Your skin is so white and good. Red is the best." Sunny gave her the red one. "Come on, be beautiful." When Su Qianxi went in, Sunny began to complain. It would be strange if she was not beautiful. The gown was custom designed by Li Xiqing more than a month in advance. The designer was an international designer from Milan, using the best spinning materials. Just these clothes alone cost tens of millions. That was the Li's financial group. If it was another company, it would be the funds for several projects. Thinking of this, Sunny was sad and angry again. Why, the boss's wife's life was so good, she had a handsome and rich man who was so good to her, different people have different lives. She grabbed the mineral water she brought, unscrewed the cap, and took a sip. The door of the bathroom opened, and Su Qianxi walked out weakly, looking a bit embarrassed. Sunny turned around, and with just one glance, her eyes were filled with strong amazement. Sunny was dazed for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, oh my god. Sunny put down the bottle and immediately rushed over. F***ck, oh, come here, let me see. Sunny walked around and found that the clothes fit unexpectedly. In other words, the sewing bag she brought to change the clothes was completely useless. Isn't this a little too revealing? No. Your sphincter and collarbone are so beautiful, of course I have to show them. Oh, dear. She deserved to have different fates. Not only was the lady boss beautiful, but she also had a good temperament. Even international models could not get the feeling Li Xiqing wanted. Everyone thought that no one could get the feeling Li Xiqing wanted. Unexpectedly, this was the real design. It was clearly tailor-made for the lady boss. Oh my god, sigh, why do I look so ugly and have such a bad figure? I don't even have any temperament. You make me feel inferior. Su Qianxi was a bit embarrassed. You're exaggerating, yes. He definitely had it. However, Sunny had already expressed that she did not want to talk and pushed Su Qianxi in front of the mirror. Stroking her hair, Sunny was even more sad and angry to find that the boss was not only beautiful, but also had a good figure and temperament. Even her skin was delicate and flawless. Chapter 193. She must make the ugliest look for the boss's wife. Humph. Full of grief and indignation, when she was about to stand up, she thought again. No, if she made the boss's wife prettier, could she ask for a bonus from her boss? Yes, a bonus. Sunny jumped to his feet. He was in high spirits. Su Qianxi had no idea what she had experienced in less than 10 seconds. Seeing her frustrated and excited expression, she felt a bit strange. At that time, it was rumored that Sunny had a mental problem. She did not expect it to be true. What a pity. Noticing Su Qianxi's sympathetic gaze, Sunny did not know that she had been regarded as a psychopath. He cleaned, put on makeup, and styled her. When it was done, it had been almost an hour. Su Qianxi was a bit tired, but when Sunny moved away from the mirror and saw herself in the mirror, she was amazed. Seeing her expression, Sunny said proudly, "Oh, I'm so good. I'm so beautiful." Was this really her? The facial features were still the same, but with a little makeup, they looked more delicate. But it made people feel like they were two different people. Before makeup, she was gentle and lovely. Then after makeup, she was mature and intellectual. Beautiful, so beautiful that Su Qianxi almost suffocated herself. It was hard to believe that this person would be herself. Her hair was coiled up, and the hair on her forehead was combed up. A strand of hair hung down on both sides, curled into loose waves. Simple and elegant. "Come on, stand up." Sunny patted her twice, tidied up her dress, and whistled. Impeccable. Then, his eyes glanced at her empty neck and wrists, and finally fell on her ears. "You are just missing a few pieces of jewelry. Otherwise, you would be even more beautiful." "Jewelry, I have it." It was just that she did not like to wear it. "It doesn't matter. You can wear it without it." Sunny glanced at his watch with a smile. "It's almost time. I'll take you down." "To where?" "To your husband." Sunny was really looking forward to what her boss, who had always been cold and calm, would look like. Li Xiqing looked at the information she brought over and frowned. "That's it." Qingyu nodded. A lot of things seemed to be deliberately cut off and disturbed. "I ran all over Kingstown and could only find these." The director of the orphanage recognized Madame as the woman from back then. "It is certain that Rong Xian is Madame's mother, but..." She took out a document and put it in front of him. "Mr. Song and Madame are not related by blood." "What about Xing Shiming?" Qing Yu was stunned. "You mean, try it?" Okay. If that was the case, then it would be too messy. Song Yifan and Xing Shiming were good friends, and they both liked the same woman. That woman's daughter might not be Song Yifan's, but Xing Shiming's. "It's about time, boss." "Yes." The two of them walked out of the coffee shop one after the other and met an acquaintance at the door. Chapter 194. When Su Qianxi was driven to the destination by Sunny, it was already 6 p.m. As soon as she got out of the car, she was surrounded by a lot of people. This was the first time that Su Qianxi had attracted so many people's attention. Although she was not a bad person, she still felt a little embarrassed. However, no matter how nervous she was, she had to be natural. Su Qianxi had a smile on her lips, light but just right. A little more flirtatious and a little less aloof. But at this moment, she was low-key and luxuriously beautiful like the girl next door, slender and elegant and devastatingly beautiful. Sunny watched enviously from behind, but quickly led her in. This was a restaurant under the sea. It was the first time that Su Qianxi had been to such a place. She walked up the stairs and soon passed through the long undersea tunnel. She was surrounded by romantic and deep blue, which was so beautiful that Su Qianxi was slightly dazed. Around her, there were fish constantly swimming. They seemed to have seen her, blowing bubbles and kissing the thick glass. Peaceful and romantic music overflowed, which was one of Song Yifan's most classic songs. Walking into the restaurant, the first thing she saw was a huge empty space with only one table. Blue and beautiful. The water rippled and rippled on her body, making her originally fair skin look even more flawless. On the table, pink candles were lit. Except for the light of the deep sea, there was no other light around. The sound of the piano became more and more soothing. The familiar melody seemed to be played by Song Yifan himself. The timbre was so real that she could not believe it. Sunny gently pushed her and said, "Mrs. President, sit down here. He will be here soon." Okay, however, before she knew it, Sunny was nowhere to be seen. Su Qianxi looked around and found that the light was getting dimmer and dimmer. She stood up uneasily, but before she turned around, she was held by a pair of strong arms. Su Qianxi was scared and subconsciously struggled. However, the arms were more powerful, and a low voice sounded, "Shoo. Don't move." The familiar voice and the familiar qi she made Su Qianxi calm down and let out a sigh of relief. "You scared me." Li Xiqing seemed to chuckle behind her. Immediately, her hand was held by him, and his cold hand slid over hers. Su Qianxi wanted to look down, but his big hand pinched her chin. "Don't move." Next, the earlobe. His movements were a little rusty, but they were very, very light. "He's giving her earrings." Su Qianxi found it hard to believe. Then, she felt a chill on her neck, and there was a heavy feeling on her ears and neck. The sound of the piano flowed slowly. However, at the turning point of the most familiar music, it suddenly became the happy birthday song that everyone was familiar with. The surrounding lights gradually lit up, and the rhythm of the piano gradually became cheerful. Then came the sounds of trumpets, violins, and harmonicas. As the lights came on, Su Qianxi looked around and saw an elegant middle-aged man sitting behind a black piano in the corner of the large space. Chapter 195. Today, Li Xiqing was dressed up, wearing a black tuxedo suit with a vintage pocket watch on his left chest. The chain was from left to right. He was tall and handsome. Standing in front of her, he was like a noble who had just walked out of the palace, incomparably dignified. Birthday. Su Qianxi was shocked. She really did not know that today was her birthday. "Is it not? The date on your ID card, right?" Li Xiqing frowned. God knows how long he had prepared for this, just to give her a surprise this time. Su Qianxi slowly shook her head and then nodded. Her eyes were slightly wet. "I don't know. I have never had a birthday before. The date on my ID card was the day the director of the orphanage picked me up." Li Xiqing pursed his red lips and whispered, "This is your birthday. I will celebrate every birthday for you in the future." Su Qianxi looked up at the man in front of her, her heart racing. There was no expression on his face. He was so cold and calm that it was hard to believe what he just said came from his mouth. He was still himself, cold, noble, calm, and unapproachable. But why did he have to be so tempting? "I will celebrate every birthday for you in the future." Every word was steady and powerful, and his voice was always cold. But when it came from his mouth, it was so passionate, so scorching. It was like a red-hot iron seal that was branded into the deepest part of her heart. In an instant, smoke billowed out, blurring her eyes. Her eyes were blurred. Looking at his serious and calm expression, she seemed to be sure and asked, "You just said, in the future, each and every. Li Xiqing's eyes were blurred. Yes, every birthday. His voice was firm, and his eyes were firm. Su Qianxi's heart began to race, and tears fell. She stood on her tiptoes, spread her arms, and threw herself into his arms. Li Xiqing was dazed for a moment, but very quickly, his cold face softened, and he held her in his arms. You said, every birthday. I said, every birthday. She had never dreamed that she would hear him say something like that and make a promise like that. Li Xiqing did not make promises easily, but once he did, he would not hesitate to go through fire and water. She knew that about him. She knew that about him too well. Her tears rubbed on his suit. She sniffed, and the bad habits of human beings were playing tricks in her heart. She looked up and met his deep eyes with her wet, black eyes. She asked cautiously, "Today is my birthday, right?" "Yes." "Then if I want a birthday wish, you will grant it, right?" "Yes." Hearing his response, Su Qianxi let go of him and looked at him timidly, like a child asking for candy. She whispered, "Then, you will only celebrate my birthday in the future, okay? Don't give it to other women, okay?" Li Xiqing was 188 centimeters, and she was 165 centimeters. She had to look up to him. As for him, he lowered his eyes and stared. Her heart was pounding. She knew that her request was too greedy. He was not her. She only had him, and he still had Tang Menjing, didn't he? She thought that he would not agree, or change the topic, or directly refuse. Chapter 196. It was just one word, but it was worth a lot. Su Qianxi burst into tears again and nodded. In the corner of the dining room, Old Master Li touched his chin with satisfaction. Xing Shiming, who was right next to him, was secretly anxious. He shouted, "That girl is too naive. Doesn't she know that it's better to believe in ghosts than to believe in a man's words?" Hearing this, Old Master Li glared at him and slapped him on the head. "Who are you calling a grandson?" Xing Shiming exclaimed, "Your grandson, your grandson. You are the grandson." Captain Li was very upset and glared at him. Xing Shiming felt like crying. Looking at the old man, he didn't know what to say. Old Master Li decided to ignore him and looked at his grandson's wife. Seeing that their relationship had improved by leaps and bounds, he was a little happy that he had deliberately tried to matchmake them. He said proudly, "Because he is my precious second grandson." Xing Shiming was confused, but he did not expect that Captain Li's words would come true. Many years later, when Xing Shiming talked to Su Qianxi about the past, she replied with a smile, "Because he is Li Xiqing." Because he was Li Xiqing, she believed him. The band around them accompanied them as they walked closer and closer. The band with blonde hair and blue eyes, each holding their own instruments, circled around them with happy smiles on their faces. The happy birthday song became more cheerful, but the sound of the piano gradually came to a stop. Song Yifan walked down from the grand piano and slowly walked up to Su Qianxi with a smile on his face. However, only he knew that the closer he got to Su Qianxi, the harder it was for him to maintain his smile. He was surrounded by unspeakable nervousness. This feeling was much more nervous than when he first participated in the international piano competition. Li Xiqing looked at him, and there was a glimmer of light in his dark eyes. Song Yifan looked at Su Qianxi's face, which was very similar to his lover's, and said, "Su Qianxi, today is not only your birthday, but also mine." Su Qianxi was shocked. Thinking back, it seemed that today was indeed the day. What a coincidence. Song Yifan nodded with a smile, hands in front of him, feeling unspeakably nervous. Even Su Qianxi could clearly feel his nervousness and was a bit surprised. On such a day, can I ask you for a birthday wish? Me? Su Qianxi pointed at herself, feeling confused. She looked at Li Xiqing. However, the man wasn't surprised at all. He reached out and pushed her slightly, as if urging her to agree. Yes. All right. Song Yifan was one of her few idols. She was flattered that he would ask her for a birthday wish. Song Yifan's eyes became softer and softer. He said elegantly, I have no wife or children, and you have no parents. Now that I am old, I also want a child to accompany me. Will you be my daughter? His heart was in his throat. Be his daughter. Be Song Yifan's daughter. She stared at him and found that he was not joking at all. Looking at Li Xiqing, she found that he still looked calm. You already knew. Yes. Chapter 197. No. Su Qianxi interrupted him. Song Yifan looked up at her. However, Su Qianxi was silent and did not answer. It doesn't matter, Li Xiqing said. It's up to you. Are you my father? I am actually Rong Xian's daughter, right? Su Qianxi asked. Song Yifan was silent for a second and said, I don't know. He did not dare to know. He knew that Li Xiqing had a DNA sample, but he did not want to see it. He did not dare to see it. Su Qianxi looked at Li Xiqing and asked, Really? Li Xiqing looked at her and did not answer. Su Qianxi's eyes dimmed, and she hesitated. This is too sudden. Can you let me think about it? Okay. Song Yifan smiled. He did not directly refuse, which was his biggest hope. He was satisfied. Xing Shiming came over with a bottle of wine in his hand and said, Well, let's not talk about this for now. Today is your birthday. Let's open the champagne and celebrate. Then he pulled out the cork and spat out the champagne. Xing Shiming poured the wine into the champagne tower on the table and quickly filled it up. Everyone had a glass. Come on, cheers. Captain Li was sitting in the corner. Unable to drink or do any strenuous exercise, he was extremely bored. He sighed and looked at the computer screen in front of him. He said to himself, It's such a good day. Of course, I need to play some classic music to liven things up. He tapped on the screen a few times and decisively clicked on a classic oldie. The sound system was turned on and began to buzz. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked in all directions. Su Qianxi looked around and finally found Captain Li in the corner. Smiling, she raised her glass and took a sip. The surroundings were elegant, the most romantic restaurant, and the tropical fishes were slowly jumping in all directions. It was quiet and beautiful. However, at this time, a joyous song immediately came from the sound system. Today is a good day. Everything you want can come true. Su Qianxi spat out the wine, and it all fell on Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing was speechless. Reaching out, he wiped the wine on his suit, but when he saw Su Qianxi laughing, he couldn't help but relax. He reached out and pulled her into his arms, letting her laugh and hit him as she pleased. Xing Shiming and Song Yifan also laughed. The festive music continued. Captain Li even grabbed the microphone and sang happily. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. The originally romantic and cheerful happy birthday song stopped. As long as you're happy, it's fine, right? Su Qianxi drank a little too much. Her cheeks were flushed, and she stumbled as she walked. He held her hand and walked out of the underwater restaurant. The cool sea breeze made her feel more energetic. Can you still stand? Su Qianxi stood up and shouted, Yes. His voice was loud and clear, and he sounded slightly tipsy. Li Xiqing smiled and reached out to hold her in his arms. He whispered, "Then I will take you to see the stars." Okay. Su Qianxi hugged his neck and looked at his handsome face with blurred eyes. Look at the stars, the shining stars. Yes. Su Qianxi's hands around his neck loosened, and she slowly slid down. He wanted to catch her, but the woman was like a loach, slipping and slipping. In the end, she directly hugged his waist and buried her face in his. Li Xiqing's body stiffened, and a wave of heat spread all over his body. I don't want to go anymore. Hold me. As he said that, he felt hot. Su Qianxi clearly felt something on her face and patted it discontentedly. What is it? It's so hard. Li Xiqing's Adam's apple moved up and down, and his voice was low and husky. Get up. Chapter 198. Ouch. It hurts. Su Qianxi pouted. As her vocal cords vibrated, the hard object in front of her became more and more aggressive. Suddenly, Su Qianxi looked up, feeling wronged. Looking at the small tent that had suddenly been set up in front of her, she reached out her soft fingers and poked the most prominent tip. Li Xiqing felt like he was about to burst into flames. He pulled her up and growled, "Behave yourself." Su Qianxi looked at him blankly. Seeing his fierce eyes because of his forbearance, she slightly opened her red lips and suddenly closed them. Pursing her lips, she said, "Why are you so fierce?" Seeing her like that, Li Xiqing felt a bit of a headache. Taking a deep breath, he lifted her up. Su Qianxi exclaimed drunkenly, slapped his back with her hands and cried, "Li Xiqing, what are you doing? I'm taking you back to sleep." No, I want to see the stars." Stars? You said you would take me to see the stars. Sob. Li Xiqing stopped and put her down. Su Qianxi immediately sat on the edge of the beach and did not want to stand up. She looked at him with her mouth pursed, as if she had suffered a great grievance. With tears in her eyes, she sniffed. Li Xiqing felt his headache getting worse and said patiently, "Why are you looking at the stars when you're so drunk?" "I'm not drunk, not drunk." "Then who am I?" Li Xiqing. Wrong. What? Su Qianxi was dazed. Looking at his face, she asked, "Then who are you?" "I'm your husband." Su Qianxi was dazed and responded blankly, "Oh. Get up." Okay. Su Qianxi got up from the beach. Her long red dress was lifted to her thighs. In the dim light, her skin was dazzling and exquisite. Li Xiqing's mouth was dry, and his lower body was aching. He felt a bit uncomfortable. Su Qianxi did not realize what kind of impact her inadvertent movement had on the man in front of her. Very obediently, she got up and asked, "Then are we going to see the stars?" "Fine. I'll let you see all you want." He strode forward, carried her in his arms, and walked into the room in the sea that they had booked. As soon as they entered the room, he put her on the water bed in the center. Su Qianxi's body was swayed, and she actually felt a bit happy. She swayed again and again, having a lot of fun. He washed his hands and patted his face, trying to calm himself down. Looking back, he saw Su Qianxi swaying happily. Her loose skirt had already fallen to her waist. Her two white legs were crossed, and her red high heels made her look even more charming. Damn it! He reached out and tugged at his tie. Unable to take it anymore, he pushed his way between her legs, held her head in his big hand, and kissed her fiercely. Being kissed so suddenly, Su Qianxi's eyes were blurred and slightly confused. However, as if she was unaware, she stuck out her tongue and hooked it on his lips. Holding his head with both hands, she climbed her legs around his waist and rubbed against him intentionally or unintentionally. The little flame that was already beneficial to the prairie was burning even more fiercely. Li Xiqing hurriedly took off his jacket, pulled open her shoulder strap, and took off the invisible bra in front of her. Chapter 199. This sound was like the sound of a bugle horn signaling the start of a battle. Li Xiqing's arms tightened, and he tossed and turned. After a while, she gasped and tightened her arms around him. "No, who am I?" Li Xiqing's low voice sounded in front of her. Su Qianxi's eyes were a bit blurred, looking at him with confusion. Seeing that she did not respond, he hugged her even tighter, forced her head up to face him, and asked, "Who am I?" Su Qianxi looked at him blankly, thought for a moment, and sweetly called, "Husband." "Who is husband?" "It's you." "Who am I?" "Li Xiqing, aw." Her chest was being sucked again, and her arms tightened around him as she screamed. "Good girl, relax. Don't kiss there. It's so itchy." "What about here?" No, what about here?" What about here?" Before she knew it, her dress had been half taken off, and her upper body was completely exposed. Su Qianxi's eyes were blurred. But damn it, Li Xiqing suddenly realized that this woman seemed to be losing blood. Su Qianxi did not notice it. Feeling that the man on top of her had stopped, she moaned in dissatisfaction. Li Xiqing pulled away and wanted to stand up, but found that his waist was held. "Hey! Fox!" He pulled her legs away. "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Su Qianxi heard that and chuckled, seeming to be responding to his words. Li Xiqing's eyes dimmed, but he did not want to stay any longer, in case he could not control himself and ran the red light. That would not be good. Taking a deep breath, Li Xiqing moved her leg away. When he was about to stand up, she reached over and grabbed his collar. Stepping back a little, Su Qianxi looked at the towering majestic view in front of her and blinked. He reached out and gently squeezed it. Well, it was hard. Su Qianxi blinked and was about to fall asleep again. However, he held her hand and gritted his teeth. "You are too naughty, Su Qianxi's eyes widened, watching him take off his clothes. She asked blankly, "What are you doing?" "Take off your clothes." "Why are you taking off your clothes?" Su Qianxi was shocked by the heat and quickly let go. She exclaimed and stepped back. "Don't run." Li Xiqing's voice was a bit hoarse. "You played with fire, so eat it." "Ugh. No, don't eat it." Li Xiqing grabbed her, his voice full of temptation. Looking at her moist lips, his eyes became more enchanting, and he coaxed, "Be good, open your mouth, Su Qianxi's head was pressed and she struggled. "Wan Lily, ugh, so dirty." "Li Xiqing, sorry for the reader's ticket if I don't dirty it." Chapter 200. When Su Qianxi woke up, it was already dawn. However, the soreness on her cheeks was very clear. Rubbing her face, she felt that her neck was also sore. Turning her head, she found that Li Xiqing was nowhere to be seen. She had also changed from the luxurious red evening dress into a set of pajamas. Needless to say, Li Xiqing must have changed it for her. But why was her face so sore? She got out of bed and walked to the door of the bathroom, which opened at the same time. Li Xiqing was still dripping water. Seeing that the person in front of him was obviously awake, his eyes darkened. Su Qianxi looked at him and blinked. "Morning. It's not early. It's 10 o'clock. Ah, so late. Yeah. Let's get ready for breakfast." Okay. Her soft and obedient words reminded him of how obedient she was last night. His throat tightened, and the anger that he had finally calmed down was ignited again. Su Qianxi did not feel anything, rubbing her face as she walked in. After washing up, it was already half an hour later. However, Su Qianxi's face was still sore. At breakfast, Grandpa shook his head and said, "What's wrong with your face? You keep rubbing it." Su Qianxi also looked confused. "I don't know. It's so sore early in the morning." Li Xiqing calmly cut the grilled sausage in front of him, put one on her plate, and said calmly, "Eat the sausage." Okay. Grandpa saw this scene and suddenly thought of something, coughing violently. Li Xiqing looked up and handed her a tissue. "Don't think so much when you are old. It's not good for your health." Su Qianxi was a bit confused, looking at Captain Li and the calm man next to her. Obviously, she did not know what had happened. Old Master Li took the tissue and wiped the corner of his mouth. His face turned red, and he sighed. Young people really know how to have fun. Su Qianxi looked confused. "What's wrong? What happened?" Li Xiqing's cold eyes flashed a smile and he said, "It's okay, eat the sausage." Oh, after breakfast, the three of them set off for the airport. Today was October 7th, the last day of the National Day holiday. By the time he got off the plane, it was already past 8:00 in the evening in Connecticut. After parting with Grandpa, he took Su Qianxi back to the villa. Nanny Rome knew they were coming home, so she prepared dinner for them. She didn't leave work until they finished eating. From the next day on, both Su Qianxi and Li Xiqing were busy at work. Li Xiqing was naturally busy with work, and Su Qianxi, "Wow, Qianxi, your dress looks so good. Is it a limited edition?" "Sigh, I've never worn it before, and I don't recognize what brand it is." Of course. Qianxi has always been low-key. She even bought dresses without any logos. If Mr. Li had not come to school to protect her, we would not have known that she was Mrs. Li, yes, too low-key. But sometimes, some things should be said to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. "What do you think, Qianxi?" Su Qianxi looked coldly at the girls who used to ignore her, but now one by one surrounded her. Was he trying to flatter him? Chapter 201. Hearing their words, Su Qianxi glanced at the dress she was wearing and said, "My husband bought this for me. I don't know what brand it is." When she got home yesterday, she found her closet was full of new clothes. The quality and workmanship were all excellent. However, she could not recognize the brand, because it was said that it was all the latest products of an Italian designer. It was going to be released next year, and Li Xiqing had bought them all. Hearing that, all the girls looked envious. "Your husband is so good to you. I did not expect that Mr. Li, who looks so cold, would be so nice to you. Before he got married, many people said he might be gay. Now, the rumor is gone. Yes, and he is hosting a cocktail party for you. It must have cost a lot of manpower and resources, right?" Su Qianxi sneered inwardly, finally getting to the point. Although this was only a meet and greet reception for her, the scale was far larger than many company gatherings. With such an occasion, who would not fight for a chance to show up? Seeing Su Qianxi did not speak, some girls could not help but say, "Su Qianxi, I heard that you will invite a lot of handsome guys and pretty girls to the cocktail party. I want to go as well. Is that okay?" "Me too. I heard that the people going there are all very good. I have never seen the world, so I want to go. After all, we are classmates. You won't say no to me, right?" "Me too. Me too, me too." In the classroom, all the girls were gathered together, and Su Qianxi was in the center. Su Qianxi did not speak until the bell rang. "Let's go. The professor is here." The girls were a bit embarrassed. Such an obvious rejection made many of them look bad. Sure enough, the professor soon walked in. The group of girls dispersed in an uproar. After returning to their seats, they were all indignant and began to murmur again. "What's the big deal? Without Mr. Li, who is she? How dare she be so arrogant?" Su Qianxi heard that and sneered inwardly. These people had put in a lot of effort in the matter of keeping her as a mistress. Now that she had reached the top in a single bound, she wanted to climb up to them. However, he pretended not to hear it and focused on the lesson. Finally, the class was over. Su Qianxi's face was cold all the way. Many people gathered around her, but they felt that they were asking for trouble and dispersed. Walking out of the school gate, she did not ask Yang to pick her up today. Instead, she walked slowly along the path out of the campus. She saw a taxi coming, and it was now empty. Not bad. Su Qianxi smiled, waiting for the people in the car to get out. But unexpectedly, a middle-aged lady got out of the back seat of the car and grabbed her head. The attack came so suddenly that Su Qianxi could not react at all. He dodged backwards, but his hair had already been grabbed, and he felt a burning pain. Chapter 202. Many students who had just finished class looked over, especially when they saw that the victim was Su Qianxi. Many people were shocked. "Isn't that Su Qianxi? Her husband is Li Xiqing. How could she seduce someone else's husband?" Su Qianxi's hair was grabbed and she grimaced in pain. However, she did not learn judo for nothing. He stretched out his hand and gripped the lady's armpit, twisting it hard. "Ouch!" The rich woman screamed and involuntarily loosened her hand. Su Qianxi took the opportunity to pull her hair back and then kicked the rich woman in the stomach. The female students who were thinking about whether or not to help her all exclaimed when they saw this. No one had expected that Su Qianxi could beat someone so easily. The noblewoman was kicked to the ground. Her eyes widened in disbelief, and then she burst into tears. "Bastard, you stinking whore, you seduced someone else's husband and beat him up. I'll kill you." Su Qianxi saw the rich woman rushing over and sneered. She dodged to the side and reached out to grab the rich woman's fat hand. Pulling hard, she turned over and pressed the rich woman to the ground. Great! Cheers came from all around, and the upper-class woman felt even more ashamed. At this time, just behind the taxi, 2 luxury cars drove over, and several women rushed to Su Qianxi as soon as they got out. Su Qianxi vaguely felt something was wrong. She let go of the rich woman and turned to run. The rich woman yelled, "Catch the bitch!" Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. She was surrounded by several men. "What do you want?" "I don't know you." Those women were obviously good friends of the rich woman. They looked fierce and said, "It doesn't matter if you don't know us." "I know you. You can do anything at such a young age. Why did you have to be the lover of a man who could be your father? How shameless." Su Qianxi's face became even darker and she yelled, "What nonsense are you talking about? Do you know who I am?" "Yes, the bitch who destroys people's families." "Hit her." As they spoke, 3 or 4 women rushed over. Su Qianxi wanted to avoid them, but she was already surrounded. Having no choice, she looked at the man and woman not far away and shouted, "Help me call security. I am Su Qianxi." However, as soon as she said that, she was pushed hard. A woman directly straddled Su Qianxi and slapped her. "Ah!" Su Qianxi screamed and dodged, but she was kicked by another woman. There was no way for her to dodge. Of the three women, one grabbed her hand, one grabbed her foot, and one grabbed her hair. The lady got up, cried, and slapped Su Qianxi hard. "Damn it, hit me. I'll show you what I'm made of." The female students next to her saw this scene and felt a little scared. They wanted to help Su Qianxi, but they did not dare to. Some students went to the school to call security, while others began to call for help. Su Qianxi was slapped hard in the face. Her face tilted, and the phone in her pocket suddenly rang. When the rich lady heard this, she reached out and snatched her phone. She saw the caller ID, "Hubby." "Humph, so shameless," she said and picked up the phone. "Where are you?" The low voice was like a wine that had been sealed for thousands of years. Chapter 203. Li Xiqing leaned against the back seat of the car and said something on the phone. Suddenly, a roar came from the other side of the phone. With a cold look in his eyes, the originally lazy aura around him dissipated. Bang! The loud sound made Li Xiqing tense up. He growled, "Drive faster." The sudden change of his boss startled Yang, but he did not dare to slow down. He stepped on the gas and rushed forward. Su Qianxi was slapped again, and her face tilted to the side. "You are indeed very pretty. My old guy is head over heels for you. Not bad, right? Ha! How dare you seduce men?" The rich woman kicked Su Qianxi a few times. Su Qianxi gritted her teeth and did not say a word. Looking up at the fat face of the rich woman with heavy makeup, Su Qianxi's eyes were indescribably cold. And the one next to her, who was pulling her hair, grabbing her hands, and grabbing her feet, she would remember everyone's face. "What are you looking at? You shameless B*TCH. I don't know you, let alone your husband." Su Qianxi's voice was a bit hoarse but terrifyingly calm. "You will pay the price." Her voice was cold and indescribably creepy. The rich woman was a bit scared, but she still spat and threw out a stack of photos. In the photo, a middle-aged man was holding a beautiful woman's hand and touching her breasts, smiling obscenely. And the woman in the photo turned out to be herself. "It's not me. Not you. Open your eyes and look clearly. Is it you? Is it you?" The rich woman grabbed Su Qianxi's hair and asked fiercely. "What's going on? What's going on? Where did you come from?" The school's security guard finally came out and shouted. The rich woman ignored him and took out a stack of cash from her wallet, throwing it at the guard's face. "Get away from me. I'm doing something." The security guard was dumbfounded and quickly became angry. "What do you mean by this? Not enough." Another woman also took out a big stack and threw it at the security guard. "Let me tell you, this is Fu Zetian's wife. She can kill you with a flick of her finger." The security guard's expression changed. Fu Zetian. A real estate tycoon who could shake the earth with his every move. He had been the richest man in Kingstown for more than a decade. In recent years, he had been pushed down by a new rich man. How could the wife of such a person beat up a student of his school? Should he intervene, or not? The security guard hesitated. The rich woman snorted, turned around, and slapped Su Qianxi again. "Scream, scream. You don't even scream when I hit you. Aren't you very good in bed? Didn't you seduce my husband? Why don't you scream a few times? Let me learn a few moves." "Ah!" The rich woman's voice became fiercer and fiercer. She slapped her fat hand on Gu Nianji's hand insultingly and said filthy words. Su Qianxi bit her lower lip with blood on the corner. Looking at the rich woman, she sneered, facing a fat pig like you, no wonder your husband doesn't want you. The rich woman's expression changed dramatically as she roared, "Bitch." She raised her hand and slapped at Su Qianxi's red and swollen face. However, just when it was less than half a fist away from her face, her elbow was ruthlessly pinched. The sharp pain that felt as though it was about to break made her scream out loud. Chapter 204. Ouch! With a scream, the rich woman was thrown into a daze. She didn't feel well at all. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be a handsome guy who came out of nowhere. His aura was cold, and it was easy to tell that he was not an ordinary guy. Looking at his cold face, it was obvious that he was the one who hit her. The rich woman was not an infatuated woman. She cursed loudly, "Where did this pretty boy come from? You want to protect this shameless mistress, right?" Hearing that, Li Xiqing's face darkened, especially after seeing the mess Su Qianxi was in. He could not suppress the anger in his heart. Stepping forward, Li Xiqing held her face in his hands. His eyes were cold and full of heartache. You are. One of the three rich women felt that Li Xiqing looked familiar, but she did not know where she had seen him before. Li Xiqing's sharp eyes glanced at the women who were holding Su Qianxi. The women immediately felt a chill down their spines and quickly let go of her. Without anyone holding her, Su Qianxi's body swayed. Li Xiqing immediately hugged her and held her in his arms. Feeling the familiar smell and taste, Su Qianxi's eyes suddenly became hot. Grievance flooded like a tide. Lying on his chest, she burst into tears. "Honey, it hurts." Li Xiqing felt that his heart was being squeezed, and he was in a panic. It was the first time that she had called him husband and complained that it hurt. How could it not hurt? She was beaten like this. The anger, pity, regret, and self-blame in his heart all came at once. Holding her in his arms, he whispered, "I'm here. I'm here. I don't even want my woman to cry. You guys." Very good. Li Xiqing suppressed the urge to beat the women up and whispered, "Yang, call the police." Okay. Yang quickly dialed 110 and gave the address. The rich women were not afraid at all. The leading woman sneered, "It was this little bitch who seduced my husband first. I was just beating up the mistress. I advise you to stay out of this. The police will give me some face. You know, my man is Fu Zetian." Li Xiqing chuckled coldly and said, "Then let's see if they are giving face to Fu Zetian or me." Li Xiqing. The college girl's husband is Li Xiqing. The noblewoman's friend was wavering. Everyone in Kingstown knew what kind of person Li Xiqing was. Even people like them, who usually didn't pay attention to the news, had heard about it. No matter how she looked at it, Li Xiqing did not look like someone who would fool around. However, the rich woman got up and saw her friend's reaction. She was furious. "Pfft! How can you believe her nonsense? My friend has also been seduced. What a vixen. She's so capable. She's seduced two of the richest men in Kingstown. Who knows how powerful she is?" Li Xiqing's eyes were even darker. Like a snowstorm, an overwhelming coldness hit her face. The noblewoman only felt a wave of cold air blowing on her face and immediately shut her mouth in fright. However, Li Xiqing lowered his head and said gently to Su Qianxi, "Honey, do you want revenge?" Su Qianxi looked up. Her hair was a mess, and her white and tender cheeks were bruised and swollen. Li Xiqing's heart skipped a beat when he saw her. Without waiting for Su Qianxi to answer, Li Xiqing had already carried her to the rich woman. Chapter 205. Li Xiqing would not answer her. Looking down at Su Qianxi, he said, "Just keep her alive. I'll take care of the rest." The rich woman's heart skipped a beat, and she was shocked. She knew that Li Xiqing was absolutely capable of that. The younger generation was selling Li Xiqing's name, and the older ones were selling the Li family's face. This was especially true for the Public Security Bureau. Their existence depended on the old General Li Sun's reputation. No matter what kind of power it was enough for him to say that. Su Qianxi sniffed and looked at the obviously frightened face of the rich woman. She jumped up and kicked at the rich woman's lower body. The rich woman screamed like a pig being slaughtered, which shocked her friends around her. When they were about to help, Yang had already stopped them. The school security guard also came forward. "Help! Help!" The rich woman screamed. Her expression changed drastically. "Help! Murder!" She screamed as she scrambled around in a panic. Su Qianxi saw that the rich woman was scared out of her wits and felt a bit good. Her face was burning with pain. How could she not take revenge? However, she was not in a hurry. Instead, she turned her head and looked at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing was a bit surprised. Not fighting anymore. Dirty hands. She had a better way to deal with this woman. Just then, the police siren rang. After seeing Li Xiqing, they did not ask what happened and directly arrested the rich women. At the police station, after their statements were recorded, the rich women were each detained for 20 days. At 7 p.m. Holding a stack of documents in her hand, Qingyu walked into the living room of the villa. "Boss, I found it." Inadvertently glancing at Su Qianxi sitting on the sofa, her face was indescribably unharmonious, which made Qingyu very distressed. Su Qianxi did not care. She took the documents, flipped through them, and sneered, "It's really them." "You already knew." Qingyu was a bit surprised. As expected. In addition to them, she could not think of anyone else who hated her so much that they actually photoshopped those photos to frame her. Qingyu shook her head. "I didn't expect them to be so stupid." Was the last lesson not enough? If people want to humiliate themselves, nothing can stop them. She put down the file and looked up. "What about those women? According to what you said, they have already been bailed out by their people without pressuring them." Qingyu said, but still couldn't help but want to ask, "Why? Those women bullied you so much. Why did you let them out?" As he spoke, he looked at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing leaned against the sofa, looking confident. Instead of answering, he asked, "How's the thing I asked you to do?" "Well, it's all settled, but..." Qingyu hesitated and said, "Will it be too cruel?" She blinked and asked, "What did you do?" "Acquisition." When Qingyu heard this word, she silently added a few words in her heart, "Defeat them first, then buy them." It was a classic case of giving candy after a slap. The other party clearly knew what was going on, but he couldn't even fart. With such a huge turmoil, the Li Consortium would definitely be in the economic headlines tomorrow. Sob sob, the boss is really willing to spend money for his wife. Ah. Su Qianxi was startled. Then can you also buy Fu Zetian's company? It was fine if it was the other women's companies, since they were just clinging to the rich woman. However, Fu Zetian's foundation in Kingstown for more than a decade could not be destroyed so easily. Not now, but soon. Li Xiqing looked at Su Qianxi and slowly said, "It's all your credit. It's your idea." Su Qianxi looked confused. She just thought of a way to make the rich woman suffer. How did it become his idea to buy the Fu family's company? Chapter 206. The last thing a successful businessman lacked was socializing. Fu Zetian was drunk. When he was draining the toilet, he vaguely saw a black shadow flash by. He didn't pay much attention to it. He zipped up his pants and turned to leave. But all of a sudden, his head was covered by a black object. He choked on the tip of his nose and lost consciousness. When he woke up again, Fu Zetian opened his eyes and saw a delicate and beautiful face under him. Suddenly, a black shadow fell in front of him. A woman was straddling his chest. "Mr. Fu, you're awake." Ha ha ha. Fu Zetian had always liked to indulge in sensual pleasures, but the tigress at home didn't let him have his way. No man would be able to control himself in such a situation. Fu Zetian stared blankly. He didn't care what was going on. He laughed and hugged the beauty down. He flipped her over and enjoyed her wantonly. But there was a loud banging on the door. Fu Zetian paused for a moment, but then he exerted more force. The woman below screamed even louder. Her voice went through the door and reached the ears of the people outside. This was an ordinary motel. The soundproofing wasn't very good. The rich woman heard the loud banging and became anxious. She slammed the door with her body and the door opened. But the person inside didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. The banging sound was endless, followed by the crazy moans. When the rich woman saw that it was really Fu Zetian, she burst into tears. "You heartless man. You're really fooling around outside. Two at once. Why don't you *CK yourself?" Fu Zetian heard his wife's voice and was shocked. His body trembled. The rich woman was even angrier. She walked up and grabbed the hair of another woman who was silently guarding the side. She roared, "*TCH, how dare you seduce my husband? I'll kill you." The woman had been in this business for so many years. She wasn't a pushover. After her hair was grabbed, she bumped into the rich woman's face. Bang! The rich woman was knocked unconscious. She fell to the ground. The woman sneered disdainfully, "You can't keep your man, yet you blame him for coming out to whore." The woman on the bed also climbed down to pick up the clothes before saying, "TSK, I thought you were tough, but you were scared by your own wife for less than 3 minutes. Boring." Fu Zetian felt that his dignity as a man had been challenged. When he wanted to grab the woman, she had already escaped. Fuming, Fu Zetian stepped forward and kicked the rich woman hard. "What are you doing here?" The rich woman cried out in pain from the kick and cried, "You heartless bastard. I've been waiting for you at home for so long. I didn't expect you to be playing with women here. What's wrong with playing with women? I've had enough of facing a fat pig like you every day." Fu Zetian was even more furious when he thought of his embarrassment just now. "Damn it, you only know how to hold me back. I'm so unlucky to marry you." The rich woman burst into tears. "Son of a *TCH, son of a *TCH, the sound of crying and screaming came from the computer screen. Su Qianxi heard the cry and felt very sympathetic. "Wan Lily, give her what she's most afraid of." Su Qianxi, "No problem. No problem." Chapter 207. The rich woman burst into tears. "Son of a *TCH, son of a *TCH, the sound of crying came from the computer screen." Su Qianxi heard the cry and felt very sympathetic. No wonder the woman was so hysterical after meeting such a man. The camera was from a first-person perspective. Fu Zetian's foot could be seen from the bottom of the rich woman's handbag. From that angle, Fu Zetian's foot could be seen. Suddenly, there was a scream on the computer screen, and the camera suddenly changed to black. The rich woman's scream and the sound of the man hitting someone were very eye-catching. The next day, this video appeared on Weibo. All the social media accounts spread it as fast as lightning. Fu Zetian would never have thought that his wife would post his behavior on Weibo. On the same day, Fu Zetian had a huge and irreparable hole. On the same day, Fu Zetian's cooperation was cancelled by the major shareholders, resulting in a loss of nearly 10 billion yuan. The next day, Fu Zetian's door was surrounded by reporters. All the headlines began to report the current situation of Fu Zetian. Netizens all speculated that Fu Zetian was at the end of his rope. Everything soon reached Tang Mingqing's ears. Tang Mingqing knew what was going on. However, the more she knew, the more uneasy she felt. The bell rang. Tang Mingqing hurriedly put away her bag and rushed to the classroom. Li Weiya happened to walk out of the classroom next door and stopped her. Mingqing, wait a second. This is for you. Tang Mingqing stopped and turned around. Li Weiya was holding a gift box in her hand. Opening it, there was a beautiful watch inside. Tang Mingqing was surprised. For me? Yes. Li Weiya raised her hand. I have one too. My second cousin gave it to me. It's a pair. She asked me to give it to my best friend so that we can be good friends for the rest of our lives. Hearing that it was a gift from Su Qianxi, Tang Mingqing's smile froze. She said, never mind. I don't want it. Her things, but this is a symbol of good friends. I don't want to give it to anyone else. Please take it. Seeing Li Weiya's pleading expression, Tang Mingqing nodded helplessly. Li Weiya smiled happily and put the watch on Tang Mingqing's wrist. Never take it off. Let's go eat together tonight. Okay. Finally getting rid of Li Weiya, Tang Mingqing hurried home. Tang Mingqing had been staying at home ever since she was asked to resign by the Li family. As soon as Tang Mingqing got home, she pushed Su Qianxi into her room and asked mysteriously, Sister, have you seen the news? Yes. I did not expect Li Xiqing to be so cruel this time. He just slapped Su Qianxi a few times and almost bankrupted the Fu family. Hearing that, Tang Mingqing panicked. What should we do, sister? If Li Xiqing finds out that we sent the photos to that old woman, we will die even more miserably. What's the rush? We won't be able to find anything. Tang Mingqing was confident and sneered. I can abort her child without anyone suspecting me. As long as you don't expose it, who will know? But, no buts. Be smart. Su Qianxi, that bitch. So what if the old man likes her? Qin Shuhua likes me. When the old man dies, we'll have plenty of good days ahead of us. Chapter 208. Su Qianxi put on her headphones and listened to what was going on over there. When she noticed that Li Weiya had given the watch away, she curled her lips and typed quickly on the keyboard. It was Louis Han in the chat box. Su Qianxi, let me know if there is any news. Louis Han, give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. When Louis Han called, she heard Tang Mingqing's confident words. Her hand slightly trembled. The phone fell to the ground with a thud. I can abort one of her babies without anyone suspecting me. Subconsciously putting her hand on her flat belly, she felt her heart tremble. Tang Mingqing had aborted her baby. What happened to Coach Jean last time was really her doing. To think that she had thought that humans were born with a good nature. Louis Han had wanted to leave her a way out, but now, it was not necessary. No one answered, so Louis Han popped up in the chat window and sent a question mark. Su Qianxi, did you find it? Louis Han, let's talk on the phone. The phone rang again, and Louis Han's first sentence was, yes. Su Qianxi's heart sank and she nodded. I traced Tang Menjing's IP address and found that she has 3 numbers. One is for work, one is for personal use, and one is often turned off, but it just turned back on. I traced it and found the IP address and number of the other party. Tang Menjing's shooter. Where is that person? I am not sure yet, but what happened to Coach Jean must have something to do with her. I guess she will do something big next. Didn't you use the listening device I gave you? Did you hear anything? Well, keep an eye on it. I don't think it is that simple. On the other side of the phone, Tang Menjing was still talking. Su Qianxi was multitasking. Suddenly, Tang Menjing's tone changed, attracting all of Su Qianxi's attention. She said, "So what? If I can't get her this time, I will wait for the next time. Didn't the old man give her a press conference? Then I will do it. At that time, I will give them a big gift." Ha ha. I have not used my trump card yet. What does that idiot Su Qianxi have to compete with me? What gift? Tang Menqing asked curiously. You will know when the time comes. Tang Menjing did not intend to answer. Suddenly, the phone rang. Tang Menjing said, I have to take a call. You go out first. Tang Menqing went out, and there was no more sound from the bug. Su Qianxi panicked and yelled into the phone, Quick, track Tang Menjing's call. Lui Han replied casually, I'm following. I'll give you the recording. A few minutes later, Lui Han's voice came. She asked anxiously, How is it? Lui Han hesitated, and his voice became hesitant. I heard it, but you have to calm down first. This news may not be good. What did they say? They're meeting tonight. And then? What is the bad news? Lui Han was silent for a moment and stammered, Well. Is Mr. Li here? The second time, Mr. Li. Su Qianxi was keenly aware of the change in the way Lui Han addressed her. Usually, he called her husband. What happened? Tell me. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.